is John Galt? This question is the first sentence of Ayn Rand's famous novel Atlas Shrugged. This book, published on October 10th, 1957,
violence when, again, our young black
Most
boys,
crime committed by white people.
Our young black boys are not the violent ones in America, no matter how much they try to perpetrate it as that. Our young black men are moving forward. The majority of violent crimes that happen in America is 69% committed by white men.
And see,
so this whole idea that white people are safer than us is a lie and is a fallacy that we got to stop. And this is a part of, for me, the black fatigue. Like literally, the FBI put out the stat. It's not me saying it. The FBI put out the stat. 69% of all violent crimes are done by white men.
Yep.
So
and not only that,
we got to stop allowing people to put the jacket on our young black men that all these YNs, black violence, when.
I mean, we need training. Black people need to be trained and taught about economics.
And we talk about investing, but doesn't investing, where does it start? What's the catalyst of 2053 being a thing, man? Can we change it or is it over? This is fantastic. I read up on it briefly.
John Galt is right. It's over. It's over, man.
I think he's right. I think
it's over, man.
Yeah. There's no pulling back from this because for every
here, and I'm not going to be much longer with y'all. I understand we need to move beyond color. I'm not about that, but y'all raised it. If you start it, I'll end it for you. Don't start nothing, it won't be nothing. But we got a problem. Black people got a problem.
Oh, we're live with Pastor Manny. Let me check the audio, make sure everyone can see me. Live with Pastor Manny here. John Galt and Pastor Manny, he got people in the audience. Let me pull up the screen so you can see the comments, Pastor Manny. I'm sure you want to see the comments as the people chiming in here. So let's see, go to the live. Let's see here. Pastor Manny in the live. And let me pull up the comment for you. Pastor Manny, tell us, how did you get here, Pastor Manny?
How did I get where?
With your viewpoints that you have.
I suppose just simply by living, observing the truth, looking at life as it is. I've had a large number of different experiences, I think, that has been my teacher and my trainer. And so perhaps that has played a large part in influence and or informing who I am and what I do. But basically, truth is where I stand, and it's what I observe.
So I don't really have a script here, but you said some things that probably really rubbed the black people the wrong way.
Really?
And I say some of the same things in the clip. But one of the things I hear all the time is there's something wrong with the black man's mind.
You hear that from me or you hear that from other people?
I've heard it from you, but I've kind of adopted it myself. But can you feel like going into that a little bit? What do you think is wrong with the black man's mind?
I think simply put, you could say that he is cursed. Now, that's probably a lot harder for many people to swallow, that he is cursed. And in fact, what has happened, his ability to think or understand certain concepts have been blocked spiritually. And that he has been impeded from moving in a direction. For instance, he doesn't have the abilities or the talents that are necessary to build the world. And by that, I mean, if you ask me to stand on the basketball court with Steph Curry and we do a 3-point shooting contest, I would look miserable and he'd just keep making 3-pointers. I don't have that skill set. I don't have that ability to shoot the ball the way he does. I think when you put the black man, by the way, let me say this. I don't mean to say that he's cursed somehow or another that I hate black people, that somehow or another I have some vengeful spirit against them, but I'm trying to help deliver them because it's obvious that black people are not doing as well as other people on the planet. That's obvious. That Africa is not doing as well as South America. And so I think when I say that, a lot of people think, or when I give my opinions about the black man's status, a lot of people interpret it as hate. I don't think there's a greater sense of love that any man has for the black man in that regard. Yeah. I don't necessarily consider him black, but I don't think there's anybody that loves the black man as much as I do. And so therefore, perhaps my statements sting or go deeper than most people's peripheral statements about black people because they don't love black folk as much as I do. Black people have a habit of killing one another, shooting one another, leaving one another dead in the street, running off and leaving their children, not loving their wives, not being financially responsible for their neighborhoods, etc., mainly because there's no sense of love there. And so the absence of that, if you look perhaps at maybe some other cultures, they have a greater sense of love. However, the statement about black people being cursed goes to the point that they are unable to represent a certain type of skill set that would allow them to compete with the modern world that we're living, or the ancient world in which has been developed in other places as well. And that has to be dealt with.
How have you seen it, like in Harlem? I saw when I've been in Harlem. There's a lot of gentrification here, and a lot of whites are moving in, and you see a lot of blacks moving out. And I'm a landlord to a lot of these people. It would seem to me that the people coming in a better place than the blacks that were here. How do you find that?
I don't understand. I'm not sure I understand your question.
So a lot of the whites that are moving into Harlem,
right,
pretty well-to-do whites.
Oh, okay, I see. All right,
Right.
yeah. Many of them are what we used to refer to as yuppies. They come from money. Their parents have money. They come from old money. Many of them are educated, and many of them have more than one degree. Many of them have professional degrees, and they've moved into this community with all of that power and all that influence. But I think the thing that's missing, John, is that they could not have done this without the aid of black sellouts, black snakes, the Black Empowerment Zone, the Black Community Council, black mayors, black leaders, black preachers.
You know, you speak of that, and when you said that, I thought about there was a black congressman here, Rangel.
Charles Rangel.
And I think he had a bunch of apartments. Was it him that had a bunch of apartments? It may not been Rangel. It was one of those, I think it was Dominican, part Dominican or something. Maybe that was Rangel. And how he had some of the apartments here for his family and stuff like that. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, well, what I'm referring to is that there was profitability to black leaders to not resist the onslaught of white people moving into the community. That is what I mean by the fact of sellouts, that they could not have done it. Not so much Rangel. I don't think Rangel owned any property. I think he died poor and broke. Rangel did. Maybe there had been some other council person that had some money. I'm not sure what you're talking about. But for instance, Al Sharpton, for instance, sold out this community. In other words, Al Sharpton is most prolific for known for leading protest marches and stirring up black angst against white people's efforts, whatever they may be. But you haven't, in over 20, 25 years, ever heard of Al Sharpton leading a protest against white folk, displacing black people in Harlem, that they've taken all over this beautiful property, taken over this beautiful bedroom community of New York City, and he's not raised his voice one time. And the reason being is because he got paid $800,000 by Jewish developers to let the floodgates in. And so it's been black sellout. Not only him, but David Dinkins and everybody else that's black that had some power allowed this to take place.
Now, doesn't Sharpton have an office 145th or something? Isn't that where his national network?
I don't know if you'd call it an office. I call it a chicken coop. Yeah, he does have has a little storefront.
Is that what it is? I've never been there before.
I swear before God, I've never seen anything as wretched as that little storefront office he has on 145th Street. You know, he used to have an office in the Empire State Building, but he didn't pay his rent for like 4 or 5 years. They evicted him. They kicked him out. So he moved up to 145th Street.
So that's how he ended up in Harlem. So downtown all this time.
Yeah.
You go to Harlem. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. But he doesn't live in Harlem either, does he?
No, he lives in the Sloan Kettering Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center on, I think it's either York Avenue or one of those avenues on the east side and 61st Street near the Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital. They have a place, a building over there for people suffering with cancer. Who could live close to the places where they can get the kind of treatment that they need to live right next to the hospital. He lives in that building because he has cancer also.
Oh, has that been announced? I
No, he hasn't told anybody about that, but he has a very special type of cancer that they're doing a lot of study on because has a rare form of cancer that has caused him to shrink down to the size of a toothpick.
He's small, yeah.
But he lives inside of that cancer care center on, is it York Avenue, 61st Street? Yeah. It's right near the Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital. That's where he lives.
Wow, that's news to me. I did not know this. He has cancer. Wow. I hate to hear that. I want to play one of your famous clips here. Is the black man does not understand the world. And I'm playing it for the audience here, and you probably don't need to hear it. If you want to hear that, I'll give you some stuff. But I'm going to put it on for my audience here because I want my.
I'm not about that, but y'all.
I understand. This is one of your more.
We need to move beyond color. I'm not about that, but y'all raised it. If you start it, I'll end it for you. Don't start nothing, it won't be nothing. But we got a problem. Black people got a problem. Now we can move to color blindness and always look at the man by the content of his character, never the color of his skin. I'm down for that. You get my vote. Yay and amen. I'm for that. But before we get there,
I'm good.
We need to hear some truth. Black people and white folk. Black people got a problem. And it's a God problem. When black people see the world, I don't care. You can train them. You can train a black man to be a physician. You can train him to be an astrophysicist. You can train him to be a lawyer, but you can't train him to understand the world. He doesn't know. I'm telling you.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that he's not competitive in economic or, if you will, development of the cities, systems, military operations, banking. He's not competitive in those areas. Now, one could argue, well, he's not competitive because he doesn't have the money. White folk have taken all the money, or that they won't give him loans, etc. But that's not true. That's not true at all. You don't have to have the loans or have to have white folk give you money. You need to have a system whereby you can start with what you have. And if you only have a community of 12 people, take those 12 people and develop them, where then that 12 will produce another 12, and you got 24. Mm-hmm. That 24 will produce 48. He doesn't have that principle, that skill. He doesn't understand. I mean, if you go into the Jewish community, you'll understand clearly why they're so successful financially, economically, and also why they're successful in many ways spiritually. But if you go to the Jewish community and you say to them, all right, I want to establish a Jewish football team, I want to establish a Jewish basketball team, you'll have very few takers because they don't understand the sport. They don't have the stamina or the ability to be able to to have a private, or if you will, single out Jewish football or Jewish basketball. They don't have that skill. But now if you go and you start talking about banking to Jews, or you start talking about becoming medical professionals or winning Nobel Prizes, there's nobody better at than that. They understand that process. And by the way, all the things I say, I don't say them because, again, somehow or another, they're born out of hate. They're born out of truth. And until we begin to listen, okay, we don't have that. Why don't we have it? We need to have an autopsy and have an examination as to why it is that we're bereft of those particular skills. Hell, nobody asks us. Nobody complains about the skills of a black man in basketball. Yeah. Hell no. That boy can run up and down the court all day long, or any other, hell, they can even play golf. But when it comes to building cities, when it comes to building economic empires, we've not done that.
You know, yesterday, Pastor Manny, I talked a lot about IQ in the blacks, and I've come to the conclusion. I think it's IQ.
I'm not sure I'll agree with that. I'm not sure that we don't have the intellectual, if you will, abilities to understand. I think our brain cell structure is as well informed and system as anybody else's brain cell structure. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we are very good at. It isn't that we aren't good at some things. I didn't say that. I just say we aren't good at building worlds. We aren't good at building cities. We're not good at architectural skills and design. So if we didn't have, John, if we didn't have the traditional and the regular brain cells and skills that anybody else walking upright on planet Earth had, we wouldn't succeed at anything. In fact, we'd be pretty much like, I don't know, I don't want to use this in a derogative racist way, but quails or monkeys rather, I think, or dolphins have a larger brain cell capacity than some of the other animals, but they're not human. Monkeys and dogs can do a whole lot of things. You can tell them to run and jump and they can do that, but they can't do math. So were we not as intellectually endowed as everybody else, we'd be at the animal level, and we're not there. And we're something that we're very good at, dancing, singing. Hell, we can dance and sing our way through to heaven and back. We can impress Jesus, but we don't build worlds. We don't do it.
Well, do you think it takes a certain level of IQ to say dance and sing versus say build a world?
Well, I think it takes a certain level of IQ, a talent rather, more so than IQ. But let me assure you that the black man has just as much capability of brain cell activity as anybody else. He's not less than. Now, if he has been cursed, let's say, for instance, there's a potential that God could curse him and prevent his brain cell activities from reaching and developing as they should, then there's nothing he can do. Now, he's got the ability, but he's got a block. He's got a hold on his brain cell activity, so he's not going to be able to do various things. But once the curse is removed, then he's as normal as anybody else in those areas.
You know, when I was coming into your church, I saw you had a sign out front of your church, and you were saying, I'm paraphrasing, more or less boycott
all Muslims.
Yeah, okay.
The last one of them.
Why is it?
Because of the unprecedented, I suppose, election, an illegal election of this dummy boy that alleged to have won the city mayor's office. And so as a result of that, we need to send a word to the Muslims. We don't want this boy. I don't want him. And we need him out of government. We need him out of New York City. We need to send his ass back to Uganda. And the way we're going to do that is every Muslim, we're not going to patronize you. We're not going to buy anything from any Muslim anywhere at any time, and not just here in New York City, but across America. We're going to boycott you until you tell Mondami to leave town.
Now, you know, I live in I'm going to show you this picture at some point. I live in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights. Right? And you know, I meant to say Weeksville. You know what Weeksville is? The Weeksville Community Center. You ever heard of that?
No, I've never heard of that.
So it's like a slave, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Weeksville. Right.
Okay, I've heard that.
So I live right by Weeksville, on my block. And all around me are corner stores, bodegas, whatever. And they're all Arab run.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when I came here, I stopped by a bodega. It was Arab run too, right?
Shouldn't have gone in there, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even know they're Arab run. So how do you think the blacks lost control of their communities? And do you think they could ever take them back and run the stores like that?
They can, but they need leadership. The problem is that we used to own all the stores in this community. The Arabs or Muslims or whoever they want to identify themselves as could not have come into this community, let's say 60, 70 years ago. Everything in this community was always mom and pops, or perhaps there may have been one Jewish leader or Jewish person who had a store on 125th Street. But we bought and sold from one another. We lost that when we started relying upon political leaders such as Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or whoever the hell else to begin to speak for us and identify us as to who we are. When we were colored, we owned everything. We owned the buildings, we owned the stores, we owned the businesses, We lost that when we became Black or African American, and we allowed these snakes called politicians or Black politicians to lead us. We're in a worse state now. Listen, if you came here, I don't know if you came by way of the train, but
Yeah.
and if you look at Crown Heights, there's more homelessness in New York City now in the history of the world.
Right, man.
I mean, it wasn't that way 70 years ago. What happened? What's the difference between now and then? Why did we have no homelessness? Why 70 years ago, every home had a father in there, or 9 out of 10 Black homes had a Black man sitting up in there at night stinking up the place. He was a father. He was at home. Now you got 9 out of 10 homes that don't have no man sitting up there. And you got the man. What happened? Who's our leader?
What's your thoughts on it? I got my thoughts, but what do you think?
We've got flawed, sellout, godless leaders who ought to all be arrested and sent out to some remote island somewhere with snakes and alligators for their playmates. And when you talk about people like Al Sharpton or Obama or any of these Black mayors, David Dinkins, Eric Adams, any of these Black city council person, and then you got the Black rappers, you got the Black television stars, you got the Black people sitting up on television talking about their news anchors or professors at some college, and all of them are as gay as a $3 bill. I mean, we've lost who we are as an individual.
Have you been hearing Michelle Obama out here moaning about her hair and stuff like that?
I've been hearing some drits and drabs about that, but I don't pay very much attention to it. But I realize it's important what she says.
But in a way, she's saying the white world makes me straighten my hair. And downstream from the white people putting this pressure on me to straighten my hair, I don't learn how to swim. And I don't, it hampers me from living a full life because I'm trying to attain this white person standard of beauty. And I don't think a Black person would ever obtain that. I don't think a white person could attain a Black person's style of beauty for what it's worth. And, it's very interesting that as high as she's gone in the world, she still feels somewhat lower than white people. Like the white people are setting the standards for her.
I got news for you. It doesn't matter if a Black person in this period or epoch or season of time since the 1940s and 50s. It doesn't matter if they get a PhD in physics, doesn't matter if you give them a Nobel Prize, doesn't matter if you give them a medical degree and doctor, that make them a heart surgeon, you can make them lawyers, politicians, they still don't understand the world. They still have an inferior complex with respect to how the world works. And she has been to the top of the world, married to the most powerful man on the planet for 8 years. And yet she's bitching and moaning about her beauty or whether or not she's competitive with a little white girl running around in the flowers in the garden someplace.
But is that important for a Black woman? Is that important for a woman, the education and how much how well she's done? Most women probably put a lot of their value in how they look and how men treat them. And she's not a very attractive woman.
Well, go tell her that. I think for full disclosure, I do have to say, because I did reference a period from Reconstruction period and even through slavery, and then Reconstruction was a broader sense of observing who Black people were and what their skills were and what they were able to do is become senators and whatever that means, bankers, homeowners, landowners, developers, Black Wall Street. Up until the 1950s and 60s, with the advent of Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, the Black Muslim, Malcolm X, all that crowd took away the 100 years after the Reconstruction period. But even from the 1920s of W.E.B. Du Bois up until about the 1970s or 80s, Black people had a hair problem. That is to say, Black men would process their hair. They too had a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, Al Sharpton is still processing. That nigga still processing his hair. All the Temptations and their first songs came out all processed hair. Clyde McFadden, the Drifters, all of them, they had a problem with the texture of their hair. They didn't understand their own beauty. Because so at one point in time, for a brief period of time, the processed hair and Black women being ashamed of their hair, we led, and I was a part of that process, a protest against denying our inner beauty. And we came out with a thing, I'm black and I'm proud. And,
I remember that.
we used to wear afro with the afro pick, and we were proud to have long, puffy, if you will, nappy, kinky hair. We're proud of it. Then in comes these movie stars, these college professors, these black people, these W.E. Du Bois types, going back to these Harvards and Princetons and coming out of there, wanting to be white, killed that whole premise of us being black and proud about our hair. And we lost the afro. We should have kept it. I think it was a beautiful sign for us.
Yeah, no, I think it looks better than a perm.
It certainly does. And there's less work than a perm.
And what these women have done to their hair, if you see some of the hairlines of some of these black women after a decade of perms, they more or less
and then they got the horse hair. Now they put those braids in their hair looking like, I mean, my God, from Zion, you're not white throwing your hair back. It ain't, that ain't you. But how do you tell them that? It is relative to the fact that we don't understand the world. We just don't. You don't have to do that to be beautiful. Islamic boys have their women cover themselves completely. Because they believe that the beauty of a woman is seen within her eyes and in her spirit, her walk, and how she carries herself. Black women have rested their entire case before the jury of beauty on their hair. That's what they put it. They put it all on the hair. If you got good hair, you're beautiful. If you got bad hair, if you got kink hair, no matter whatever else you look like, they've rested the entire case of black women's beauty on their hair.
I'll agree with that, but I think it's very superficial because the men know it's not. Most of their hair is not real. So it's just how good does the fake hair look? And I don't think men are going to be drawn by that. I don't think you can keep a man with fake attributes here.
I don't know about that. I know these women, maybe these women are getting women. I don't know what they're doing, but everywhere you shake a stick, there's a woman got some braids in there. It's got a bunch of horse hair in her head. So I'm not sure.
Speaking of braids and horse hair and all that, right on 116th right here, a bunch of Africans doing hair, black women, sister gals, right?
Yeah, right.
What do you think? You have an opinion about the Muslims? Some of the Muslims are black. What do you think about the Africans coming here and they seem to be doing much better than the blacks?
Well, they have a different work ethic. They have a different code. They have not been indoctrinated into the fact that the government owes them a living. They are thankful to get out of Africa to be in the land of opportunity, America, and hell, they'll work their keisters off to be able to make it. Black people born here in America, they're born thinking that the government owes you everything, and they keep hearing these politicians like Al Sharpton and every damn body else black, and not only that, but white Democrats as well, liberals, telling you that the world, the white people or the government owes you. So therefore, your job is to get out there and march and protest and get every damn thing you can, from food stamps to programs to housing to free bus rides, to a whole lot of other stuff is what he owes you. So get out there and get it from him. But Africans, they don't come from that ideal. They realize that life is difficult. And your life is built on your skills and your abilities and your talents. And so they come and they display their talents until somebody gets a hold of them, then converts them from what they learned in their African nations to become Americans, and then start following people like Al Sharpton or David Dinkins.
So you think the Africans will start following the Al Sharptons of the world?
If they be here long enough, yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's, and I'm online a lot. Are you familiar with the distinction between, say, the Africans and what they would call the FBAs? Are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay, so in the and I think it's on the street level too, but it's definitely on the internet world. What is the big difference between blacks and Africans? Would you say that's fair? Say blacks and West Africans. All of them. Let's just say they're all of them.
Well, first of all, I don't identify blacks as a cultural identity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a misnomer, even though I did agree with we're black and we're proud in that regard. But we're not black. We're not. We used to be colored. That perhaps had some stain, if you will, of discretion and perhaps some hate. when we were called colored, but we're all different colors. We are the most colorful people on the planet. We are a rainbow of people. We're from light skin to dark skin to, and I would prefer that than black because we're not all black. And the other thing is that black is a word that is basically used to identify the worst of the worst, that it is used in the English language very skillfully. The black sheep, black day, black thunder, black this, black that, black child. It doesn't really ever promote anything really good. So why we would go down that road, I don't do. But I think that in terms of answering your question, whether we're black or African, if you're born in Africa, you're an African. You can't escape it.
Right.
Whether you're black or white, you could be white born in Africa. You're still African. So you can't escape that. Now, to say you're African American, if you weren't born in Africa, but yet you say your ancestry comes from Africa, you'll be an African American. I mean, why don't you just say you're an American? Hell with Africa. You weren't born there. Your parents weren't born there. Just honor America and say you're an American.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I was listening to a guy the other day, seemingly intelligent guy, and he was trying to go down the political aisle and he wanted to be political. So, but he got hung up on his blackness and the black national anthem. And so a Hispanic guy says to him, who's on the same side of the aisle as him politically, he says, we can't have an anthem for every race of people. But the black guy, who probably agreed with the guy on everything else, he couldn't agree on that black national anthem. He had such an attachment to it that he couldn't let it go. And I think that there is something about blacks where they see themselves as kind of unique in a way, and hence their own national anthem and things like that. And so, but when I see the Africans down on 116th, you know what I'm talking about, braiding all that hair, right? The blacks, I just don't think the blacks can compete with them, that level of community spirit.
Well, to back up just a bit, I think that while you're referring to them as blacks, I rather refer to them as their ancestry, their father who was Ham, and refer to them as Hamites. But that's another issue. But I would think that when we use the term black because it's easy to interpret to an audience who doesn't want to go down the etymology study of Hamites. But I think that black people do have a uniqueness that ought to be preserved. I think the Black National Anthem does speak to a cause. I think that I agree with the person who wouldn't let it go. And not we're unique in that area. I think Jewish people have a unique cause that they're Jewish, their ancestry, they're Jewish, they're raised under a blessing of God. They've raised under a tribal, if you will, instinct. While they're not savagery tribal, but Jews are very tribal in their understanding, very restricted. And I think blacks should adopt the same thing. I think we should look at ourselves as special. You know, we are different from everybody. Now, we don't understand the world, damn it. And we can do, but we're special people. And the fact that we've gone through slavery, while I'm not here persecuting the case against America for slavery, that's a unique experience that few people have had, and we have survived it. I think that while I don't think we ought to be lauding it in the faces of everybody, I don't think we ought to be doing that, God forbid. But I do think that we ought to see ourselves as a unique people. I think a large part of understanding the world, if we should get there, and I think that we can, is that we're going to have to recognize that we are indeed a unique people. We are. And we should be proud of our uniqueness and what we bring to the table of the world in terms of our offerings.
Now, you mentioned slavery, and I have a clip from you talking about slavery. I want to play this for the audience. You probably hear it through my headphones, and most of the people here, I know you know it. So I'm going to play this clip from you. This is a clip, I think this is the one, you talking about slavery here.
You look at the African American people. What you will see are people that of all the people on the planet have been the easiest people in time and antiquity to enslave. Nobody, no other people, while there have been enslavement, there have been nation capturing nations. When America came here and took this nation from the American Indians, the Navajo, the Arapaho, the Cherokee, the Blackfoot, all of that. America could not enslave the Indians. They wouldn't do it. They would not be slaves. They would not serve the purpose of slave. Not even.
So basically, what you're saying here is that no other race of people could be enslaved like the Black American, and that's what you're saying. That's what you were saying there.
And we were enslaved not because of our propensity to be slaves. We were enslaved because we were cursed to be slaves. Now, we would have to then begin to do some biblical studies. And
you're talking about the Hamites?
Yeah.
Go give the audience a little bit on the Hamites.
Well, Ham is the father of Canaan and the father of the Egyptians. Shem is the father of the Jewish people. Noah, by the way, Noah had 3 sons when he landed after the great flood. Shem was the oldest, Ham was the second oldest, and Japheth was the youngest of the 3. And Ham's son Canaan did something untoward towards Noah while he was allegedly drunk. And Noah awoke from his drunkenness, and you can find this in Genesis chapter 9, and cursed Canaan. The thing that I think it's important, and the reason why I speak with such strength to Black people, is because Canaan built what we refer to in the old Bible teachers and those who've been around the church for a while, Canaan land. Before Israel, the Jews moved into Jericho and the Jordan River and all that land flowing with milk and honey. It was called Canaan land because it was Canaan, the son of Ham, that fertilized that land, that built that unique architectural city called Jericho. Now, his father, Ham, moved to the west, crossed the Red Sea, and built Egypt, built the pyramids, built the Sphinx, built a mechanized army, medicine, art, and science like the world had never seen. In fact, the first religion of the Jewish people that they have now happened in Egypt under Ham's leadership. The whole business about the resurrection, the business about being in the tomb and raised up out of the tomb, that was the whole thing of the Pyramid of Giza, that you bury the pharaohs in the tomb and they're resurrected back into or reincarnated. All that happened under my father Ham. And the Jews were then cursed, prophesied to Abraham. God prophesied that the Jews would be slaves for 400 years to the Egyptians, who were Hamites. And it was so. They went down and they were there for 400 years until Moses finally led them out and then eviscerated both Ham and his son Canaan. But God had cursed Canaan that he shall be the servant to both Shem and to Japheth, the same way he said that the Jews would be servants and slaves to my father Ham. And so we found ourselves here in America because of the curse that God placed upon us. We are a unique individual. We are unique people, as unique as the Jews were ourselves. And I think we're a part of the process that one might, if they're able to take the time to listen, would be to help us to understand we once were a magnificent people. We once were the greatest builders of anything on the planet. Nobody ever built the way we built. Not even just the pyramids or the Sphinx, but the way we built Egypt and the marble floors and the castles and the designs and the armies. Most people were living like Abraham. They were living in tents or huts. They weren't building great nations or great cities until they learned something from him. So we have gone from the highest level of persons to the lowest levels of person. And the Bible points that out clearly. So we got to first embrace the fact that we were cursed to be slaves. And once we embrace that, once we actually believe that, but know that that took place, then we have a starting point. But this business of blaming white folk and this and not recognizing our heritage is ludicrous. It is done by snakes and thieves like our civil rights leaders, these black politicians. They are the ones that's leading us from the truth. And everybody's calling me crazy. And I'm telling you what the Bible says.
Do you think that blacks come from, you believe we come from Africa, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think the white man brought us here?
He did.
On slave ships?
Well, you call it that if you like.
Or some kind of ship.
Now, don't start that nonsense that these Israelites run about being brought back from Canaan to Egypt a second time.
I'm not familiar with them. But I do know, and I've been hearing recently that a lot of blacks have convinced themselves that they were not brought here as slaves by the white man. It's a fairly new thing.
I'm not surprised.
So have you heard that?
No, not really.
What do you think about that?
Listen, that they weren't brought here by white folk. And initially, all people that arrived in America arrived because of the power of the white man. The only people that were here initially were the Native Americans, but everybody else came by way of the white man's power. And the white people arrived here themselves, and then they went to Africa in the triangular slave trade, and they brought us here. That's all we got. We didn't come here on our own.
Well, some of the blacks are saying, there was a lot of blacks now that are saying that they were here before the white man. You ever heard that before?
No, but I can tell you this, that there are black folk who are about as ignorant biblically, socially, historically as anything you can find anywhere, and will come up with any kind of non-validatable, if you will, ancestry to try to escape themselves being slaves, and also try to explain why they're so feckless when it comes to economic development.
What do you think about black fatigue? Have you heard that term?
I think I have, and I think I've probably a whole lot of people have had it. What I believe that the Muslims are going to do is, I think people they're tired of the Al Sharptons of the world. They're tired of black people always blaming white folk. They're tired of Michelle Obama. They're tired of Karen Bass. They're tired of these black mayors, and they're sick and tired of it. Everywhere you shake a damn stick, some black folk complaining about somebody white. And the black fatigue is a reality.
You think it's real?
I know it's real. People just have no. I mean, it's been like 70 years of the same old nonsense, and it just gets worse.
And so, what do you think will be the outcome of it? Like, how do you think it plays out? How do you think Mandami handles, say, the black constituency here? Because they're going to be complaining. They're going to want things from him. Whether he has other groups to cater to, things like that. How do you think it all plays out with this black?
But first of all, I'd like to tell everybody that's listening that I'm going to stop Mandami. That's the first thing. But on the other scale, I think it's for blacks to support anything that Mandami does is sacrilegious. I think it's antithetical. I think it's against God. I think that the fact that he is a Muslim and he believes that Islamic faith is superior. He believes that Jesus is a liar because Jesus is God. And Muslims, rank and file, believe that Jesus at best was a prophet, but they can't identify, because Jesus is not a prophet of Allah, but they can't identify the God he is a prophet of. So they believe that Jesus is a false prophet. So anybody that submits themselves to Islamic thought or ideas done lost their mind.
And I know you were running, but who would you have liked to see as your second option if it wasn't Mandami? Clearly, you didn't want Mandami. Would you have been okay with Cuomo or
no
Eric Adams?
No, I think I may have been. I mean, that's a question that I probably haven't considered, and I probably wouldn't have a second choice as to who should be mayor. I don't know that Mandami will ever be sworn in. I don't know. It hasn't happened. What do you
mean? What are you saying?
He's not mayor yet.
But it's a foregone conclusion. I'm not familiar with. He's won the election.
Do you know why they say mayor-elect?
Yeah, so there's some process, I guess, in the interim.
He's not. In other words, he can't go to City Hall now and say, "All right, you do this, you do this." He can't tell the fire chief. He can't do that now.
Right.
He's not mayor yet.
So, what do you think is going to happen between now and?
I have no idea. I might even end up being mayor.
I see you ran there.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. Well, what was the point of running?
There were several things. One is that I wanted to be able to expose the corruptness of the landlords and the developers in New York City.
Yeah, they are corrupt.
Listen, they shouldn't call them landlords. They should call them land gods.
Yeah.
I mean, politicians and Wall Street and all that stuff, they do have a big influence over New York, but nobody's as influential as the landlords. People own these buildings, they are gods. They tell you when you can live. They tell you when you can breathe. They tell you where you can pee. I mean, they run, and New York is a conglomerate of properties.
Big buildings. Yeah.
And they got power. They control Wall Street. They really are gods. And then developers come in, they got plenty of money, they got the banks, then they buy the politicians, they get the land, they do what they want to do.
All these rent control laws, all benefit the landlords. Yeah.
Montgomery talking about he gonna freeze rent. He better watch himself. He better end up in a hole someplace out there in mafia world.
Hey, if he freeze the rent, they're gonna figure out a way to get their rent. But the people down at the bottom, they're the ones that gonna suffer. They're living in hell.
They're the ones that gonna suffer.
Absolute
so
hell.
That's really a curse. When he said, "You're right," that's a curse against poor people talking about freezing their rent. You better leave these landlords alone.
I be trying to tell them, you better leave me alone because I will put you out on the street.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? That's where you belong. Come on.
One day, Pastor Man, I was getting all these calls from sex offenders. Seriously. Because they can't live anywhere. They can't go live. They can't afford to live in nice neighborhoods.
Right.
And the nice neighborhoods are not going to let them live.
Right.
So by and large, they come to me. I get a disproportionate number of sex offenders, criminals,
right?
You know, and things like that. And so you mess with the landlord, boy, you end up with a whole bunch of sex offenders in your neighborhood.
You better leave these landlords alone. I think that's the wrong. Talk about the politicians. Talk about Wall Street. Talk about anybody you want to talk about. But this is the most expensive island, most expensive parcel of land perhaps on the planet. And then of course you got Brooklyn, Queens. All of this is high priced property. And the landlords call the shot. So I think that what needs. What was your question, by the way? You had a question prior to that. Did I answer it?
Oh no, go ahead. I forget. I'm just having a conversation. Go ahead.
At any rate, I'm convinced that what Mondami is probably going, if he does become the actual mayor, is going to find that it's extraordinarily difficult to do any of the things that he said he's going to do. In fact, it's nigh impossible. You can't run the New York City massive transit system without getting something from somebody to pay the bills. Who's going to pay the bills? The taxpayers are going to have to pay the bus drivers if the riders aren't doing it. Then the other thing is
it's free.
Right. You got people just getting on the bus because it's free. Let's have a party on the bus. It's hot out here. Let's get on the bus. It's air conditioning, ride around for a while.
I seen it.
So
yeah, that is very interesting. Let me ask you this question, Pastor Manny. People were asking me to ask you a question. What is how have you lost friends and family over your views?
Yeah, I have. No, I have.
Tell us about some of that.
Well, I think that the starting with the friends part. I grew up Baptist. I was ordained a Baptist preacher, and I grew up in a Baptist church, obviously. And I went to a very liberal seminary, Union Seminary. So I made some acquaintances there. And my first foray into religious or church membership, community ministry was Baptist. And so I made a lot of friends, a lot of pastors. When I was young and I was a seminarian and I was a pastor, a lot of the preachers liked me simply because I was young and I talked fairly well. But when I began to realize that they were leading in the wrong direction, not only did I realize that, but I was told by Almighty God that we're going in the wrong direction. Not so much that they disdained me as I withdrew from them. And the response when I withdrew from them and became pretty much independent of my religious thoughts and ideas, they felt hurt. They felt that I had been there. They had trained me. They had given themselves over to me. And then, like a disrespectful youth, I withdrew myself from them. So they felt hurt. And that hurt caused a fraction between our relationship, which I could not go back to. With respect to family, I think that because I came from such a deep, dark place of being on the chain gang and being in prison, I don't think anybody thought that I would ever make it. I think that most my family members probably thought I was just destined to have to apply to you for a place to live because I couldn't get a decent place to live. I'm an ex-convict. I've got criminal record, been convicted in 2 different states. And I don't think most people my family expected me to survive. And then a lot of things I did prior to going to prison were ungodly, to say the least about them.
Yeah, I've heard your story. Yeah.
So when I began to succeed, it caused some friction between what people's thoughts about me.
Wait a minute, hold on. You say when you began to succeed?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I don't think people thought, or my family thought, that that was going to happen. It's kind of like Joseph and the dreams that he had that one day his family would have to bow down to him, and they all tried to kill him. And when some saw my rising, I think it offended them to some degree. Not to mention the fact that I speak quite boldly about a lot of things that they believe in.
Yeah. Do you think they believe you and they just can't agree with you in public? Do you think a lot of people agree with you, but they can't agree with you in public?
I think so. I think more so than we could ever begin to imagine that people know that I'm right. They just wish that I wasn't. And that there was some other way. And moreover, they wish that you're right, but don't say it. Don't say that. Don't air out dirty laundry so the whole world. That's what white folks say that about. Ku Klux Klan say that about us. Why are you saying the same thing that they say? Well, it may be true, but keep it, that's how they are.
So you think some blacks really believe that what you're saying is true?
I know that they do.
But they just don't want you to say it out loud in front of white people. Is that what it is?
Well, look at it this way. You have several segments we'd have to divide this up into. But it's profitable for some black people. A lot of black people make a lot of money on the fact that black people, and again, using the term black is not necessarily my choice of words, but a lot of people make money on the fact that black people don't understand the world. For instance, if you take a person like Ben Crump, for instance, every time there's a shooting, he makes a ton of money. He gets speakers fees, he gets private jets to ride around him, and he gets a portion of whatever the settlements or Al Sharpton makes money. That's all drying up now. So he became famous off of the fact that young black boys were crazy enough to run up against the police and talk trash to the police. We bust a cap on you. And so now Ben Crump get called in, he's on television. You take black young men out of the street, put them under the father, and keep them off of the police radar. They don't get shot. Ben Crump, you don't know who the hell he is.
He can't practice law. I don't think he's smart enough to practice law.
Boy, I can't even talk.
I've had some black lawyer tenants of mine. They're not that intelligent.
Anyway, you're right about that too. So a lot of people profit from the fact that, especially black politicians, they more than anybody else. And a lot of white politicians profit from black people's failure to understand as well. So the things I say cuts into their profit margins. They don't want me exposing who they are.
Do you ever find yourself censoring yourself?
No.
Never.
I don't do that.
Never held back on something you thought about saying just out of not wanting to hurt someone's feelings?
I'll ask you a question. You've listened to some of my...
I just had to ask you. I don't think so.
And let me not be flippant about that. I think that I made a decision. I'm not sure whether it was in Rayford in prison one night. I was on the chain gang. I'm not sure when it was, but I think it was in those very tender years of mine that I made a decision that I would always tell myself the truth. If I don't tell anybody else, now I might lie to the state police officer. If a patrolman stopped me and I'm doing 80 and I tell him I might lie. Or to escape some sort of an embarrassment, I also might lie to someone asking a question. But to myself, I would never lie. I will never lie to myself. And so that brought me to the point where if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And so there's no time when I've held back because I thought it would hurt somebody's feelings. Have I been, if you will, in a way that speaks so people can receive it? I don't hit them with a hammer right away. First, I massage them and then I hit them. But yes, I know. I'm going to tell you if that's how it is. I'm going to tell you what it is.
So as I was walking up, I saw you have a school out front. The school, kids,
brilliant young people.
Tell us about that. Tell my audience about that.
Well, we've had the school now for 27 years. The superintendent of the school is sitting in that chair over there. His name is Elder LaFleur.
Yeah, I met him earlier. Yeah.
We have graduated. I have signed the graduation certificates from our high school of 500 students over the years. And one of the students was accepted at Yale. We have another accepted at Juilliard. We have a couple that have gone to law school. We have one doctorate degree from St. John's University. His daughter graduated from New York University with a bachelor's degree. She's now at Pratt Institute and a master's degree program in architectural urban studies. We have done extraordinarily well with the education process. We're one of the best schools in America. And we're private run. We don't get any money from the government. We don't take any money from any state or city auspice. All of the monies that's needed to run this school comes from the offering plate or from whatever might be given by a parent. But that we've been doing. And by the way, I did that because of your school, Tuskegee.
Is that right?
Yeah, I read Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery.
You told me, yeah.
And he started a Tuskegee, right? And he would come up here to New York and solicit money. I guess you saw that. And so while I was in prison, I made a decision while I was in prison, I was going to start a school. And this is the reality of it. You know, I was talking about people like Mondumi and Eric Adams and Cuomo and a bunch of others and political people that are running for office. Nobody has the resume I have. I mean, Eric Adams may have been the mayor of the city of New York and over the 900,000 students, but he didn't, when he hasn't signed individual graduation certificates such as I have. And so our school is one of the best that you're going to find anywhere at any time.
So how did what's the sale to the parents? Because I'm sure most people are going to, I think it's mostly black kids, right?
Yeah.
And most black people are going to want to send they're going to trust the public school probably more so than they trust some black man like yourself. So how did you convince the families to get on board and disavow the public school system?
A miracle. No, I think that initially most of the parents were members of the congregation. So they had already accepted my leadership, teaching, and my biblical point of view. So it was only second nature to allow their children to be a part of the school.
How hard was it dealing with the state and the graduations and all this stuff? Was it the school system wants to keep the kids in the public school system, I would imagine. That's where the money is.
Yeah, they do. They make a lot of money doing that. I haven't had very much interaction with the state. They don't. They don't give me any problems. They don't come around they do come around and inspect to some degree whether the building and the classrooms and the structure is as it is. But beyond that, they don't bother me.
That's very interesting. I thought it was very difficult to own a school, to open up a school with all the government interactions.
It probably is for a lot of people, but I mean, they may find me a different person in terms of what I do.
That's pretty impressive. So what did you think about Eric Adams?
I think he's a sellout. First of all, I had some confrontation with Eric Adams going back a few years ago when he was borough president of Brooklyn, I think it was. So I had some problems with him then. He was a favorite of your Crown Heights people, all the Jewish people out there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah.
He licked their boots like you wouldn't believe. They're the ones that supported his run for mayor. But he foolishly dumped them for the Muslims in Pakistan. Turkey. And the Turkish, he foolishly dumped them. As you notice, during his crisis, they didn't come to stand with him. During his period of running for office and during the period of his being installed, everywhere he looked, there was this Hasidic Jews with all these black hats and everywhere. But you don't. The last year or so, you haven't seen them anywhere near him, mainly because it became public knowledge that he went to the Muslims in Turkey with. What's this president of Turkey?
Was it one of those nightclub owners he was involved with or something? He may have been Turkish or Muslim or something, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not aware of it, but I do know this, that he's a sellout, and I think what was discovered is that he's a very weak man. The fact that he found himself in political trouble and it was indicted in the Southern District, went down to Mar-a-Lago and kissed Trump's rump. And Trump, of course, bailed him out. My thing is this. I was convicted of armed robbery, in Brooklyn, right? In Brooklyn. They offered me a plea deal. I said, no, I'm taking it to bat. Get the jury, I'm going to bat. I took it before the jury, they convicted me. I was convicted of burglary in Dade County and Miami Beach. They offered me a plea deal. I said, I'm taking it to bat. I went to the jury, presented my case. They convicted me. If Eric Adams had simply hired me as his lawyer, I could have gotten him off those charges. He didn't stand up like a man. He's the mayor of the city of New York. The whole world is watching. There are people on the jury that's going to like him. There's somebody going to hang that jury.
At least one person. Right?
Yeah, he would have never been convicted, but the fact he went down to Mar-a-Lago and just threw himself at the mercy of Trump made everybody in New York. I was out on the campaign trail. That's what people told me. Why would he do that? We would have stood with him. We liked him until he did that. We lost all respect for him. He would be mayor now. They're not bowed down to Trump.
Really? You think the weakness that he displayed?
Yes, I heard it. I was on the campaign trail for a year out there on the street.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. It's like, again, that would be like one of the, like this, maybe the way that they don't understand the way of the world, and that, he showed that weakness, and you say it harmed him,
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. Let me ask you this question. What do you think about, like, as a landlord, right? I rent to people, and I would say almost everyone in America is trying their best to avoid living around blacks included. And I'm just saying to myself, like, how can this keep going on, like, without anyone saying anything about it, or solving the black problem, the crime, the violence in these neighborhoods? And it's forcing everyone, if you're familiar with DC or New York, everyone wants to live in, say, Manhattan or certain parts of Brooklyn. And really they're saying where there are no black people. And for the black people who can afford to live away from blacks, then they do just the same. And that really just leaves the poor, downtrodden blacks to live amongst themselves. How do you think that problem gets solved?
I lived on Northeast 8th Street, 2 blocks above Hull Street, 8th Street. You know what Northeast 8th Street in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
I lived there.
Oh, you lived in D.C.?
Yeah, I lived in D.C. for a while. And I know about Southeast Washington as well. Now, I know my friend lived on Kenyon Street.
It's in Northwest.
In Northwest.
Yeah,
he lived there.
Yeah.
I guess his family had a little bit of money. I don't know.
Yeah.
My question is, what do you think about it? Why do you think black people don't want to live around black? Let me ask you a question. You've asked me 1,000 questions so far. Let me turn to, why do you think black people don't want to live around black people? And then after you ask that question, we'll just answer that question. Why do you?
Oh man, I would love to show you a video to prove my point, but I've seen blacks do things to each other. It just, they won't even treat white people this way.
Why do you think they do that?
I have no idea. Like, I was telling you before we got on camera, I had a nice little, and let me see if I can pull up while we're talking. Nice, fairly attractive young lady. And a bunch of blacks, men, beat her up. And, and there may have been some reason to it, but it didn't take a bunch of black men beating her up.
Well, let me ask you another question. So we've gone through the gamut of rehabilitating black folk. What I try to express, and maybe I've not been as fluid in terms of expressing as I should, rather than black people rehabilitating themselves, they spend all their energy trying to rehabilitate white folk. That didn't say white folks are the problem. We're not the problem. Y'all are the problem, white folk. And so we choose leaders, and we aspire and worship leaders who tell us we're not the problem. We understand the world. We're good. It's just that the white man's bad. So that's the crossroads of where I stand. And I think anybody who can understand, anybody who just looks for 1 second. And if you look at the Bible, John, prophets or preachers sent to people in the Bible were never sent to their adversaries. They were always sent to the people themselves. Y'all are the one with the problem.
That's interesting.
If we straighten you, if we can get black folks straightened out, the circumstances around us will have to fall.
Yeah.
If we can get black people thinking and doing the appropriate thing, which I keep talking about all the time, I keep identifying the problems of what we do to one another and why we do it. What the hell's wrong with us? Why the moment we get $2, we move away from black? Why don't we stay in the neighborhood, try to rehabilitate the neighborhood? Why don't we try to keep the streets clean? Why do we go move or live around white folk and talk about like living in Van Nuys or Beverly Hills, California in a $40 million house, when if you just took 40 of those $1 million and gave it to families in Bed-Stuy and let them buy $1 million house, you've improved the neighborhood, and you still got a house in the neighborhood. Why you got to spend $40 million? What about LeBron James and what's this guy, Jay-Z, and all these people? All of them.
It never makes any sense to me. And you know, they made their money off of blacks, and they
still making money off of black folk.
And they claim to be very black, but they don't want to live anywhere around them. And that is what I've seen as a landlord all my life. Yeah, I'll see the most pro-blackity black people, but when they come home, there's no blacks around, preferably. You know, back in the day, I used to offer, once I started catching wind of it, I used to offer my friends, hey, you want to live in the ghetto? I'll let you live for free, because I rent rooms. I've never been taken up. No one's ever taken me up on an offer. They rather pay to go live around white people.
So next time somebody criticizes me, you say to them, you know, black folk hate each other. Pastor Man's the one that loves you because he tells you the truth.
Yeah.
He's the one that lives around you. These Negroes, they get some money. The first thing they go move in a white neighborhood because they don't want to be around you. They don't want to live around you.
Yeah.
Pastor Man has always lived in the neighborhood, always will live in the neighborhood. And so what he is saying, and the black man that won't live around you will stand up and talk about how awful the white man is. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, but black people are worse towards black people than white people ever dream about being.
Yeah, I truly believe that. And I think that, you know, they won't be honest about it. And, you know, again, I've seen it all my life. As soon as they get some money, and oftentimes, and I think this is what the bigger problem is, they don't get enough money to move away and comfortably live there. So now they're scraping to live in DuPont Circle or some nice neighborhood. They can't afford to live there. And so they're scraping so hard, working so hard, that everything downstream from that becomes a problem. If you got a relationship with a girlfriend and you got financial problems, you got a problem. If you slip and fall at work, you end up homeless because you were barely able to keep up with the rent anyway. And on it goes that a lot of these lower place blacks, if they could just live in the ghettos safely, they'd be better off financially because they wouldn't have to pay these high rents to live away from blacks. And I've never seen any other group running away from their own race like this. It's very interesting.
I moved into this building 42 years ago.
Right here.
Mm-hmm. And at the time, you could have bought any of those buildings across the street for $1,000.
Mm.
At that same time, blacks were upwardly mobile. If you will, the job opportunities were opening up through civil rights procedures, and blacks were able to move to a different class. And at the same time, they moved out of the neighborhood. The building right across the street, any of them across the street now, are worth $6 to $7 million.
Yeah.
Let's say, for instance, a black man had enough damn sense 30 years ago to buy that building, live in it. The equity now would make him rich for the rest of his life.
Beyond his wildest dream, yeah.
Just on the equity alone. His mortgage is paid off, but they wouldn't do it. They were moving to white neighborhoods, leaving the community. And how do you talk to them? How do you tell them you had an opportunity? You had Harlem.
You know, let me tell you, Pastor Man, I can do business in the ghetto much more efficiently than I could if I tried to go down in Manhattan.
I understand that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they don't recycle the trash as efficiently in the ghetto as they do, say, in Manhattan. You know, where they're going to make sure you got the cans in this bag and the this and that. You know, things have to be run a little bit tighter in the white areas.
Right.
But in the black areas, you can get away with a lot of stuff handling business, you know. And I think that the blacks that try to go out into these suburbs to handle business, they're not smart enough, or they're not equipped. They don't know how to do business with these people.
Right. They don't.
And it's much easier. It's easy for me to do business with blacks. Very easy. I know where they're coming from. But for me to try to go do business with a foreign group of people, that's much more difficult.
I understand it. It goes back to the question of understanding the world. You see, the worldview is different. The community values are different. The neighborhood has to have a certain standard in the black community, the standard is law and accepted as law. While in the other neighborhood, you try to do business downtown on Wall Street, they're going to make you rise to the standard of Wall Street,
right?
Standard that they're used to living to. You cannot bring that there. And so what they do is that, and oftentimes, and you know this as a landlord, oftentimes the property in a white area doesn't have to be as expensive as it is, but you need to add, if you will, a bit of an override on the rent so that you don't get a lot of black people moving in who can afford it. That way we keep it high. That way you keep away some of the other problems that you have, but you also build equity. Because if you let black people move in, the equity of your property is going to go down. You're going to lose money every year. So it's best to have a little bit higher interest, a little bit higher price for the living in the community. So you get the equity. But if you don't, you get a whole bunch of black people who want to be white come in there with their basketballs and their barbecues and their loud music at night.
Hey, I'll tell you, I live in Brooklyn, right? And you know they had them Caribbeans over there.
I know about that. I know about it.
Let me tell you. So a white man comes up to me one day. He's not even white. He's Albanian. I guess he'll be white, whatever. And he asked me to sign a petition about the blacks to Caribbean. I'm not Caribbean. He's asking the Caribbeans to cut their music down. My children never even noticed that the music was loud. They're black. They slept right through it, right? And here's a white man coming to me and said, sign this petition to tell these blacks to cut the music down. Okay, all right, whatever. It didn't bother me, right? Now, if they'd been playing heavy metal, Leonard Skinner, I probably had to sign that petition because my children would be raising hell.
They would have been.
Then my lady would be raising hell with me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But by the fact that them blacks were playing bass.
Right.
And blacks, bass is in our ear. Right. I think that's how, that's how we like to hear music.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Right? Well, I don't think it's unfortunate. White people like trouble. Right.
Okay.
You don't say that's unfortunate.
No, I guess that was just a misnomer statement. But trying to identify the problem.
Right. Now, the problem is that we like it late at night, which may bother people. But the bass music doesn't really bother blacks. Loud music, as long as it's bass, doesn't really bother blacks. And so they're not going to fill out a petition against each other. Now, the whites will if you start to try to gentrify.
So are you saying, John, that we have different standards, social standards that we accept?
Well, let me rephrase it again, because my children slept through the boom, 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 the bass.
Right.
But if it'd been Leonard Skinner,
right,
I'd have been complaining because now I got my children up all night. My lady would have been like, hey, what the hell's going on?
Let me ask you another question then. Which is the superior, or is there an identification and seeing that one is superior to the other smacks of a sense of injustice? Because what I'm trying to get at is that is Leonard Skinner's music superior to the bass that we listen to or that your children listen to? Which is more acceptable? And because the other question is this, whose lifestyle is more acceptable? Go back down to where you're being a landlord. It's easy for you to be a landlord in the hood. It's easy. It's more difficult to be a landlord in the neighborhood. Is it because the white neighborhood is more superior in its ethics or its social understanding?
No, here's what it is. Among the blacks, their standards are within reach of each other. No, there are not many outliers. So the heat, as an example, I went into their house yesterday. The blacks were, complaining about the heat or whatever. One black walks out of his room with no shirt on, saying it's cold. So the blacks, they want the heat cranked up a little bit higher.
Right.
Partly because they walk around half naked.
Okay.
But you couldn't do that with white people. You can't crank the heat up to 75 with white people. They'd be like, what the hell's going on in here? The same thing with music. Blacks walk around playing their music in the house. They're not with the headphone on. They just walk around with the phone or walk around with a Bluetooth speaker. Those things happen. But it's the boom, boom bass of the music, and the other blacks aren't really offended. Hell, they may walk around with their bass playing too. But if it were Leonard Skinner, where they can't really concentrate on what they're watching on TV, or maybe they don't like that song, then that would cause a butting of the heads. Hence, all black house, all white house, I really don't have any problem. Well, I'll have a problem with the blacks. But if I put a white in the house with a black, that's no bueno. That doesn't work.
No bueno. Okay.
Because the blacks don't live like whites. And
is that wrong?
Well, I think it starts to, there's some things that they're just incompatible with. One thing is the music. The blacks, they can't live without that music.
Well, let me ask you another question. Ever been in a black church before?
Yeah.
You ever have you observed the music in the black church?
Yeah, a little up tempo. Yeah.
Have you ever loved the dancing and the carrying on in the black church?
Right.
I mean, they live for that. I mean,
right. Yeah, it's very similar. That's what I'm talking about.
It's the same thing as in how black church. You black church. They want the music loud. They want to dance. You go to white church, people sit there quietly with their hands folded, and the tempo is down. The message is low. It's
it's a different way of consuming.
Let me ask you another question, and I'm not cutting you off. By the way,
fine, yeah.
You think you're going to achieve anything through this interview with me? Other than the fact that people are still going to curse you out for doing it.
I tell you, I think a lot of these people, they thought I was a grifter initially,
Okay.
And so then from that standpoint, they probably look at you and they say, well, he's just a grifter. He's like all the rest of these blacks, and blacks have a lot of distrust amongst each other. I think that's part of it. And so I think you work through, and there may be one or two blacks. I had a black guy yesterday. He gets up on the panel. He said, John, I thought you were a grifter until I saw you go into the house with these blacks raising hell with the police. And so, and that's just one guy, I think the light bulb may come on for that person. So that's what you do it for, I think.
I mean, one other question.
Yeah.
What do you think about pre-Obama blacks, pre-Obama America, and post-Obama black and post-Obama America? What's by that? Did we grow? Did we acquire more property? Did we get more educated? Did we more graduates? What happened? I mean, how did those 8 years influence the future? The present and the future, if I'm clear about what I'm trying to ask you.
I think, again, blacks put probably too much emphasis on politics. I live in D.C., so maybe I see it a little bit differently. But they don't, Booker T. Washington said it best. It's cruel to educate a man without teaching him how to apply their education. In D.C., there's some of the smart, most educated blacks in the world. But they don't own any buildings. They're not the landlords. They don't own any corner stores. So what did the education go to solve? They can be a paper pusher in some obscure government.
Is this problem ever going to be solved?
I don't think so, because
I mean the world's going to end. We're all going to die, and black folk are going to die in poverty or in ignorance or in at the bottom of the social register.
Pastor Man, I was, I tell you, I live in Brooklyn. If you know where Ralph Avenue is, where Ralph Avenue is?
Absolutely where Ralph Avenue is.
Where Buffalo, right?
I know where Buffalo is.
I live on St. Mark's, in between Buffalo and Ralph.
Okay, I know St. Mark's, Dean Street, Pacific Street, St. John's, all that.
Right. And so around me is all these corner stores. And again, I'm from Alabama, so all this is fairly new to me when I came here about 20 years ago. This has been a phenomenon to me. And those stores, at least one guy told me he makes $30,000 a month in revenue. I'm guessing it's revenue. Yeah. I said, that's a lot of money to pull out the ghetto, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of money. And you don't have to be very intelligent to do that, run that business. You don't have to be, You can be a drop. These people are Arabs and Yemenis, right? And they're figuring it out. It's very simple. But the blacks are trying to do all these hoity-toity things that may be a little bit above their intelligence. And while the other people down on the level, the Arabs, the Yemenis, all these people, they're just selling in wherever they can find their success. And at some point, there's no turning back from that. All these other groups would have bought up everything.
Well, let me add to that outrage. These same groups could not make it in a Jewish neighborhood. They couldn't make it in an Irish neighborhood or Chinese neighborhood. They go to a neighborhood where they already have considered before they arrive in America that the intellectual level of Black people is lower. They're easier to scam. They get a lot of government money. They would never open up a bodega in an upscale neighborhood. They wouldn't do it because they couldn't survive. Moreover, their quality of foods or life or whatever would not be sustainable or at least acceptable to other neighborhoods. So we got a problem. We got a problem.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
The issue is, I tend to disagree with you. I think the problem can be solved. I'm convinced that at some point in time, your listeners are going to recognize that I'm telling the truth, and they just hate to hear it. And they're going to, and at one point in time, they realize that the way they have been living and the leadership that they've accepted has led them to a path of destruction and homelessness, curse against their children. Our sons and daughters are raised without fathers in the home. Our daughters are having children, both of their panty legs without the father being there. That this is an outrage under any circumstance. And who is addressing it? Pastor Manning is saying it. He's just telling us. And he's telling us because of his great love for us that we have absolutely, positively got to do a reverse of where we're going. And secondly, we're going to have to stand up and publicly identify that we have been misled. We've been ripped and robbed by a cadre of Black politicians, everybody from Dr. King to Obama to everybody else. And Dr. King, I put him in that category, even though his ideals were perhaps not as vile or as greed-spirited as some of the others, but he spawned a whole movement that you can make money by cussing out the white man.
Yeah.
And so he has to be put into that category of persons as well at one point in time, because if we don't stand up and denounce the evil leadership that we've had, we allow that leadership to exist and still get awards, the Emmy Awards, or get a NAACP award. We still allow that leadership, then that leadership still influences, and we can never identify problems. But if we stand up and say, this man hurt us, this man led us astray, this man needs to be imprisoned for what he's done, at that point, we're now ready for a fresh start. And the business skills that you use to run your real estate business, to pay your taxes, to avoid a confrontation with the Washington, D.C. commissioners and all that other kind of stuff that you do running around there. The Black man sleeping on the street has the same skills, John. He does. He has the exact same skills, but he doesn't know it. First of all, he's never had an opportunity to express them. For instance, if your son lives with you and he sees you do these things, he sees you overcome difficulties, he sees you overcome tax problems, he watches you acquire property, he watches you bid and get properties and watch white folk cave into your abilities. He watches that for years. You die, he's ready to roll. But the man that's sleeping on the street has the same skills. He just hasn't had to practice. He hasn't had any damn body to lead him, to show him how talented he is.
I agree. I do agree that there's no one to show these people. And the problem is that the talented Blacks, they're gone, man. They're
a bunch of damn phonies. You ought to line them up and shoot them at sunrise.
I want you. I have some strong feelings. I want you to listen to this. And so here's a video. I played it for my channel, and I'm gonna bring it to New York because we're in Harlem.
That's where you are now.
A lot of Harlem rappers, right? A lot of Harlem rappers have made a lot of money.
Unfortunately.
Right? And so what I want to do is I want to play this for you. This is a man in Philadelphia. And he's basically, you could say the same thing here in Harlem. I'm not going to play it for the audience. They may be able to hear it, but they've heard this, but you'll be able to hear this.
Realize, y'all, you know what I realize, y'all? That Black people are some of the most dumbest people on the planet. You think what I'm saying? Y'all see this shit right here? Like, here it is, right? They never had this cheesesteak spot. All of a sudden, the Italian people open up a cheesesteak spot and they getting paid. Black people, only thing we want to do is kill, manipulate, make fun of our own kind, misjudge, and all type of fuck shit. But here it is. Every time one of these people, these Italian people, open up a business, we patronize them and get them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we don't never patronize our fucking self. Why is it that y'all millionaires from Philly, or y'all niggas who made it from Philly, don't open up simple stores like this and give people jobs? Just because y'all selfish. Black people, we are selfish, ignorant, rude to each other, and that's some fucked up shit. Excuse my language.
And so what he's saying, and we're gonna bring it to New York, is that this is a man said, just create something simple for us. The bodegas, the corner stores, so that we can have jobs and we have places to go eat. So we don't have to go to the ATLAH. And ATLAH don't even know what the hell we're saying, and it's a language, a culture barrier. And he said, why don't Meek Mills and all the Philly rappers do it? Every time I cut the internet on, I see 50-year-old Jim Jones. You know who Jim Jones is?
No.
You never heard of him?
I don't think so.
He's probably been around. He's probably been filming right around here because I think I saw him filming at the. Isn't it a hamburger place across the street? Where's the Harlem Shakes? The burgers place.
It's a couple of blocks north, and then one block south, east rather.
Okay, was it about 125th?
Yeah, 125th Street.
It's Harlem Shakes. This is a burger place, right?
Right.
And I've seen Jim Jones there. And Jim Jones is a 50-year-old rapper. He dresses like a 20-year-old. Puffy's from Harlem.
Yeah.
Right. And Dipset, Cameron, all these people.
Right.
Are there any businesses run by these blacks?
No.
Not one.
No, not one.
Not one black business. Why do you think that is?
Because they don't understand the world. They don't understand that you need an economic base. Like this fellow was saying, that the Italians come in and we patronize them. But those who get money, the blacks that have made it, don't understand. You need to be in your own neighborhood, and not that's a racist way, but you need to set up an economic base, and then we need to train each others how to run these various types of bit. We don't do that. We train each other how to be rappers, though. We do that. But it's because we don't understand it. We don't understand that we should do it. You go to Jay-Z or go to Jim Mills or go to any of them and say, why don't you invest in the community? Why are you spending all this money you have on jewelry and all this other stuff that you do looking like a clown? Why don't you come back and invest in the community? The reason being because then that would take away his mystique. He would no longer be able to sell that junk he called music if he started acting like a natural human being. That's why they don't do it. You
think that's what it is?
Absolutely. It would.
But you think they're smart enough to figure that out? You think they're smart enough to figure that out?
Yeah, no, I think they know that.
You really believe
I think they realize this. I think they realize it's an act. I think they realize what they do is an act.
I mean, clearly they're not.
They know it's a con job. They know that rap music is a con job. They sit around and try to think about what can get people going, and then they put it to plastic or whatever they do.
But again, then that would point to black people basically being willing to scam and get over on each other. That's what you're saying.
Some of the biggest drug dealers I know are black people dealing drugs. The mafia may have sold it to them, but the mafia couldn't sell it to that 10-year-old boy on the street. Yeah, but that black man had no problem taking that $20 bill from that black boy. He didn't have no problem with it. Yeah. So that's what we do to one another.
Yeah, it is very interesting though. You think about these people talk so much about Harlem in their rap songs, and not one business. None of them
don't own anything at all. And Harlem,
you don't think they own anything?
No.
Get out of here. No way. And there's no way they don't own anything. Jim Jones, Cameron, Dipset, all these rappers.
I don't know them.
They never come across your path.
No.
Really?
I don't know that they own anything. You don't see the restaurants or businesses or nightclubs or anything. Yeah. Hell, they allow Billie Holiday's famed Lennox place that what was it, Lennox Lounge?
Lennox Lounge, yeah. I remember.
They allowed it to become the Wells Fargo Bank now. I mean, they didn't try to preserve, the great Billie Holiday, and they did the Apollo Theaters and like a museum.
Yeah.
They don't even want to come up here to perform now if they're not performing at some major theater in Los Angeles or someplace else.
Yeah. So is it the Apollo? Not many acts come up here anymore for that?
No, not anymore. They don't. That's a small venue for them now. You know, they don't play Harlem anymore.
So it has no like mystique.
No,
Really?
no. It's too much. I spoke ghetto, I suppose, is what they would think. So they don't play Harlem. You don't find these rappers. They don't come to any of these venues here. In fact, we only have the Apollo as well, but they tore down the Renaissance Ballroom. So no.
Is Renaissance Ballroom? Is that the Malcolm X? Is that one of Malcolm X?
No, the Renaissance Ballroom was a very famous, if you will.
I've heard of
it. Was more Will Chamberlain, more who was the other guy that during that period of time, the gangsters used to hang out there. But it's gone. They tore that thing down.
Pastor Man, I got a couple people very anxious to ask you some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You really think so?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna bring them up here. I'm gonna bring them up one at a time. Oh yeah, I want to bring this guy up here. All right. So Master Kim, so look, I don't know why I call you Master Kim. Is one of the people in the audience. I want you to see this guy right here. This is very interesting. He's up on the stage now, and if I can just get it up here, so you can see what's on my screen. It's taking so long. And so here's a guy that we have, and he is an enigma to me in a way. And it plays on what I was telling you earlier in that blacks with this education are not as well suited as you would think it would be in America. And I went over a job description the other day. Here's the guy on the panel. You can see him. I went over a job description the other day, Pastor Manning. And I looked at the soft skills. You know what soft skills are, right?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, just looking at it, not many of these blacks would have these soft skills. They may have the technical, but not the soft. So if you bump into them or if you have a disagreement, that's when the soft skills have to come into play. And a lot of the blacks, they don't have it. You say something to them the wrong way, they get there. What the fuck you say that to me? You know, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Those are the soft skills. And so here's a guy on the stream. His name is JP, and he classifies himself, and I'm just being loose with the term, a welfare guy. But he has a lot of soft skills that a lot of these educated blacks don't have. And so it's an interesting dynamic seeing him up on the panel every day, up on these YouTube panels, because he's able to hold his own with people with a lot more education than him. And that is what it seems to be very interesting to me, is that our educated blacks really aren't that smart.
Well, I know that.
Because they can't separate themselves from a guy who calls himself on welfare, a welfare king. You see him on the screen. So anyway, I got the headphones, so I'll relay the question to you. JP, you got a question for Pastor Manning?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you say that, first off, I want to start off, we got the drug dealers. But do you think that, well, I believe, do you think that before drug dealing in the black community, we had black pastors that was pimping the community?
Okay, so you said, oh, go ahead.
Basically, taking everything from the community, not getting nothing, and not putting nothing back in it.
Okay, so he's asking, before the drug dealers, there were the pastors.
Right.
Is that right, JB? And he's saying basically the drug dealers replaced the pastors by more or less taking things out of the neighborhood and not putting anything back. Is that fair, JP? Or do I need to rephrase? Right. So he's saying, okay, the drug dealers just replaced the pastors, you know.
You know, I would want to say, and I'm not going to apologize or try to make it more digestible, but I think the drug dealers were more sensitive to the neighborhood than the pastors. At least the drug dealers, for the most part, most of them did live in the community. Most of them did have houses and did buy houses. In fact, a lot of the drug dealers from my era ran businesses, bodegas or small stores, as a front for their drug business, where they were getting all their money from. They had stores where pastors didn't do a damn thing. They would take the money out of the community, go to a white neighborhood, buy a great big house in a white neighborhood. So in one regard, the drug dealers were more understanding economically, even though what they were doing was wrong and vile and hurt a lot of people. They stayed in the hood, for the most part.
And you know, you got to be there. You know, and being there is something, because you don't want it to just all go to shit. So
yeah,
by you being there, and these are typically the stronger people, they're gonna, you know, make sure that it goes as they see fit. That's interesting. Any other questions, JP? You got anything?
Yeah. So basically, like what I've been saying, the ghetto dudes of the community really was the ones, although they had a bad stigma. But would you agree that they really are the ones, the men that really protected the black community? Also, we had instances where people want to say, "Oh, that it's we always have had the ghetto dudes out the community have some type of order where somebody violate women and children, especially back in the day. You violate women and children, you're gonna get dealt with from the men in the streets or in prison."
So what he's saying here is that it seems that the as you were saying, that the ghetto men, the drug dealers, the hustlers, or whatever, kind of maintain a little bit more order than say the preacher who came in on Sunday morning and he's gone by Sunday afternoon,
right?
And it just mayhem is left to take place until he comes back on Saturday, Sunday morning. Is that your question, JP? Which was better? What do you think is better?
I was trying to see if people could see with that.
Yeah, would you say that's fair?
You know, it depends on how you scale the ethics and the morals of the two persons. The ethics and the morals of the preacher who comes in and robs the people of their innocence, robs them probably an opportunity to interact with God, which is severe. If I steal the most important thing in your life is your ability to interact and touch God, I'm worse than a drug dealer. At least the drug dealer, he just takes your money and you get hooked on the use of the drugs. But if I take your money and also at the same time, the way I get it, like these preachers do today, they take away your interaction with Almighty God. There's nothing more severe than that. While I don't praise selling drugs, mind you, that's not what I'm saying here. I'm not lauding selling drugs, and I wanted to know about it to say that I did say that. But what I do think is who's the worst? I mean, depending on what one is doing with respect to selling drugs or peddling lies and robbing and stealing as they go in the name of the Lord.
We got another person. Universal, you want to come up? You got a question for Pastor Manny?
I don't have any questions directly, but there are questions from the chat if you want to bring those up, John.
Okay, let me see if I can get it working here.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me see if I can get this. Go ahead, JP. I'm gonna see if I can get these headsets working.
All right, Pastor Manning. I've been Pastor Manning a lot on other people's channel. When it comes to why do black male preachers, understanding that the history, especially like the older black pastors and preachers, understanding that slavery gave us.
I can't hear him. I mean, I hear his voice.
I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it to you.
All right.
I'm getting the headphones ready for you. Go ahead. Go ahead, JP.
Slavery gave us everything negative about us, right? Including Jesus. As a black older preacher, why do our black preachers continue to practice and give us black folks this same white God?
Okay, so he's saying, why do the churches keep telling us to worship a black God, white God in the black church?
I don't know that the church does that. I understand where it's coming from. Obviously, I've heard it 10 zillion times. Jesus was a Jew. The Bible is emphatic that his mother was Jewish, bred, virgin, and that his father or his grandparents, as you were, the parents of his mother, were Jewish. Jesus was a Jew, and more specifically, more than that, more than color, he had to be a Jew to be the Savior. He had to come through the Jewish line. My problem is this. It is why focus on whether he was black or whether he was tan colored. What's that got to do with the salvation? I grew up the churches in the 50s and the 60s, and the Last Supper had Jesus sitting at the table with a bunch of other Jewish men. But when black pride came along, all of a sudden we got to make Jesus black. Why? What's the reason? What's the point? When he's Jewish, and Jewish people, especially Middle East people in the Middle East, are a tan-colored people. They're not, if you will, Caucasian whites. as you would have in the, if you will, Norwegian area or European area.
I have an answer.
In the Caucasoid area, if you're looking at Newfoundland, if you're looking at Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, Europe, you're looking at those particular regions. People, because of the weather, are generally much paler than people who live in the Middle East, and then people who live in Africa are much darker. This emphasis of trying to make Jesus black is one more cry of black people that we're not worthy. We need a black God. We need God to be black so we can be important. If God is white and white people got everything, why our God got to be white? We need a black God. Take that white God down off of your wall and put a black God so we can be important. But we still, after we leave church, can go shoot and kill and eat a bologna sandwich and still the same damn thing we've always done. If God was black in the black in 1,000 midnights down in the cypress swamp.
Pastor Manning, I will argue that this is the reason why we do all of that stuff, because as black people, especially black boys,
go ahead.
Especially black boys and black men, we don't have anything to connect to. We the only race.
I can't hear you.
Hold on for 1 second. You said it's messing up. I think it may be a short. You can hear him.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, talk up, JP. I think it may have a short in one of these.
You can hear me now, Pastor Manning.
It's not coming clearly.
You know what? When he's talking, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna turn this up where you can hear him right here. And I'll just turn your mic down.
So I can take this off. Is that right? Yeah. I can better hear him if I take this off. Yeah.
What about now, Pastor?
Hey, all right, JP, try to talk now.
What about now? You can hear me?
Hold on. Let me cut. Go ahead, JP. Let me hear you talk.
Okay, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, you hear me?
Okay.
So I think that the problem is black people is the only people that don't have nothing to connect to. That's probably the reason why we go out there, we do this type of have these type of behaviors. I think that it's very important for us. Why do we have to? We the only race on the planet got to worship a God that don't look like us. We got to worship an education that don't represent us. We got to worship money, a currency that don't represent us. We don't have our own face on nothing. So when you talk about the self-worth of who we are, we don't got nothing to inspire to. I think that a lot of black people that get into like pastoring or anything like that, it gets them money, so they don't care about connecting and all this other type of stuff, because it seems like, from according to what you said earlier, pastoring from the black perspective, it's just about getting is all about getting a quick buck. But we have seen a lot of older black men.
What's the question?
So the question is, how come we can't have nothing black? Us black men, I'm 40 years old. I'm getting tired of being whitewashed. And it matters to me to have a black something.
Hey, go ahead. I'm gonna let Pastor Manning answer the question. Go ahead, Pastor.
JP, you perhaps are too young to realize that we do have a lot to look up that's black. We have Jackie Robinson, who if you will, broke the racial barrier within sports. At one time we had Harlem. We used to be proud as hell of Harlem. It was our community. I mean, the song's written about, I'm going uptown to Harlem, going to let my hair down in Harlem, going to eat me some chitlins and black-eyed peas and collard greens and candy yams. We've had a lot of things that were black. We have a lot of people. We had Muhammad Ali, the greatest ever. I mean, we a number of things that were black. We even got sweet potato pie that is black. We just can't turn the color of the God who is the God of all people, no matter what their color is. We can't turn him to a color just so that we can feel proud of ourselves. I think we need to let God be God and let our whatever accomplishment we have, let them be the accomplishment. We don't need God to be black, and more specifically, there is no way you can make a Jewish God. He's Jewish. That could be a black Jew, that all right, but he's still Jewish. And we have to accept that and accept the things that we can have as black. Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali.
If they told us that we came from Africa,
I'm gonna give you that help on Pastor Manny because I think they want to talk to you more than me, Pastor Manny. So I'll just step away and let them have it. You guys, one at a time.
So if they said life first started in Africa and we are African Americans, I'd rather have an African God than a Jewish God.
Did you say that life started in Africa? Is that what you said?
No, I said that if they told us life first started in Africa and we are African Americans, we derive from Africa, I'd rather our God would be more of an African descent where we could connect to.
I'm not sure what your question is or what your point is.
My question is, why is it that we have to accept everything? Now, you told us some stuff to be proud of, and that's some like real shallow base. But when it comes to the most valuable thing that we need to traverse around this world, our God, our currency, our education.
Let's just stay with God. Let's forget about the currency. Let's stay with the God. So we start talking the money bit, the currency business. That's something far field. Let's stay with God. Why is it that you feel that we would be a stronger people if we had a black God? What can you point to that would indicate that because the color of God has been perceived to be, if you will, Middle Eastern color, that somehow or another that has destroyed our ability to be a great people? Can you point those things to me?
Yeah, because we don't. If our God were black, we will have more connection, more understanding. We will feel as though that our God understands us because it resembles us.
Why?
Because, for an example, we got black women scared to wear their real hair. We got black people that had to change their identity to get farther in this life that we living in. So we don't have nothing to that we could connect to.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that black people have kinky hair because white people put a spell on them? So now, if the white people would take the spell, that our hair would be straight and not kinky? Is that what you're saying? And that we would better love ourselves if we didn't have kinky hair, and white people are responsible for the kinky hair? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think white people is responsible for nothing that was naturally built upon us. I just believe
that's a great word. That's a great word. So now, what about the natural color of a Jewish person? You do believe the Bible that says that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary. Is that right? You do believe that?
I don't believe nothing about the Bible or Christianity
or Jesus. There's no point in me talking to you if you don't believe the Bible. I mean, there's no reason for you and I.
Because it has not been substantiated. I've been living for 40 years and talked to many preachers. Only thing they told me to have faith. But when you talk to those preachers outside of church, they don't practice on belief, faith. They don't trust a soul. They want to have evidence and facts. We don't live in a life with faith. Nowhere in the world we go off faith and belief. We always go off evidence and facts. Even you would not trust if I say, Pastor Manning, can you lend me $1,000? I'll pay you back. You gonna want to check my credit score. You want to check who I know.
I would dismiss lending you $1,000 out of hand. Forget about the checking your credit score. But what you are saying, first of all, is that your foundation is not the Bible. Your foundation is not the book that has guided humanity for as many as 7,000 to 8,000 years. And there have been billions of people that have rested their souls upon the words that are etched in the Holy Bible. And you're telling me that you don't believe it. So in order for you and I to at least have a common denominator to discuss, we have to have a belief system. And I don't know what your belief system is, but I can tell you that my belief system is the word of God. I believe that word. So you are coming from a perspective with no foundation. I mean, you're throwing stuff up against a wall that has nothing that you can prove of its existence or where it came from. Everything has to have a beginning, and you have no beginning. And therefore, why would you even want God to be black if you don't believe there is a God? If you don't believe the Bible's definition of God, if you don't believe that, then why would you believe there is even a God? What color is?
No, I do believe in God. I practice more nature. I think nature more trustworthy. I just believe that when it comes to Christianity, that has not been substantiated. You haven't asked me why I deterred from that religion. At one point, we was all Christians. I was a Christian at one point too, and at some point, I deterred. I think that will be the more of a question.
Here, I think that the fact that Christianity has its failings, I'd be the first one to say that and probably say it louder and clearer and more emphatically than you. But it has nothing to do with the fidelity of God. The fact that Christianity has its problem, its flaws, its hypocrites, its liars, its peaches, its thieves, its liars, its whores, does not change the fact that the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning at a certain time and set tomorrow afternoon at a certain time. Preachers and churches and Christians and Jews and Muslims can all be a bunch of damn thieves, but it doesn't change the dynamics of the reality of the moon or the sun. So what you're saying is because that Christians have acted a particular way that now you don't believe the sun no more, which is ridiculous. Where the hell did you get that from anyway?
Hey, Master. Hey, Universal. You want to? I'll let you manage the line here because people probably anxious to ask Pastor Manny a question.
Yeah.
I don't have headphones, so I'll let you manage it there.
Got it. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give people 5 minutes to ask their questions. Imperius, I'm gonna bring you up next.
No, don't fuck with Imperius. Move on with him. He can't control it.
Well, I don't think we should bring people up to ask questions. I think we should keep them in the back. What I've done is I've added the questions like this. And John, you can just you can just read it from here and ask the questions directly. We can just line them up. I have about 13 already.
Just keep moving, Universe. Go ahead.
All right. So the next question is: during your time with Procter & Gamble, why did you leave and feel the need to join the cause and start robbing white people? That is what the question is.
Because I was racist as hell, and I was taught to be racism. And man, after being raised Jim Crow, picking cotton in North Carolina on my knees and cropping tobacco and saying yes, sir, to Mr. Charlie, I came to New York and found, hey, I don't have to do that no more. And though I had a job with Procter & Gamble, it's true, I felt I can cuss the white man out if I felt like doing it, and damn it, I did it. And not only that, but I took it to another level. Not only to cuss him out, but I'm going to rob his house and take his money and everything I can else get. I felt that way. I felt that was the answer to a lot of the pent up, if you will, feelings I had. Moreover, I felt that there was a lot of struggles that Black people were going through, that they were strung out on heroin. They had no money. They're sleeping in abandoned buildings. And there I was riding around in a comfortable car with an American Express credit card in my pocket. I felt that I want to reach out to help my brother. And I thought that was the way at the time. I was a very young man. I was in my early 20s. I thought that was the way to do it. I was wrong, but I tried.
Let me ask you before anyone else chimes in, but that same kind of disaffection that you seeing your brothers down and out, and you wanted to help them by robbing the white man. A lot of Blacks, I think, still are in that mindset today. They feel like there really is nothing they can do. They feel hopeless, and then they strike out at the white man because he has everything.
And I was being told to do so. Rap, Brown, Stokely, Carmichael, Malcolm X, the whole crowd. I mean, the 60s were a flood with revolution, the Vietnam War, the protest, the social media protest, the burn your bra protest, the women's liberation. I mean, from 65 to the early 70s was awash with rebellion against it. And so I fell into that trap. I don't hear anything.
Anyone else have another question here?
Yeah, there's plenty of questions. So the next one here is through a super chat. It says, Pastor Manning, I'm a fan of yours and John's from I think Pontiac, Michigan. What was the first Bible verse that really gave you conviction and brought you to Jesus?
That's a good question. It was in Ecclesiastes. And I'm embarrassed that I can't quote it completely as I should. But basically what it says is that God will prove all things at one point in time, and you need to be ready to face them. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. That knowledge is, the exact verse says that knowledge is very painful. The more you learn, the more painful it is, because when you recognize what reality is, it's just very painful. The truth is that the world is an awful place. And that's what it says. And I haven't been asked that question or focused on that verse, but I think if you go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, I think it's verse 18 that says that knowledge is really very painful. The more you learn, the more difficult you see the world.
Absolutely. Pastor Man, are you familiar with the mother that got jumped recently by the children in Chicago? One of our audience members would like to know your thoughts on the incident if you're familiar with it.
Unfortunately, I don't think that I am. The details might help if you want to give me those.
I can show it to you. University, go to the next question. Then I'm going to show this to. I'll pull it up and then we go. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Someone wants to know, how do you feel about Trump today?
Trump is a pathological degenerate. And I think, in fact, I don't think I know. Let me be emphatic here and clear that we're looking at perhaps one of the most unusual psychological events in the history of humanity, going all the way back to the beginning of time, to the caveman. We have never seen anybody who is as pathologically degenerate, to use the term again, derived and void of any concern for humanity other than himself and whatever other priorities he may have, such as sexual intercourse. I think it's a biggie for him. In fact, I think he's a degenerate there, where he's unable to control his sexual drives that he's given to rape at any time. His wife even accuse him of rape. And then there's the other thing about him. His desire for money is insatiable, that even the richest person, including Elon Musk, does not desire money as much as Trump does. The problem is that Trump doesn't have any. But he is, there's a verse in the Bible where the old preachers called him Dives, and the man that lay outside of his gate was called Lazarus. And the Bible says that Lazarus lay outside the gate of this rich man for days, full of sores and hungry. And the rich man fed sumptuously, wore nice clothes, and ate great food. And Lazarus desired to have the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table, but the rich man never gave it to him. Let me tell you something about this Trump. If Trump is sitting, if there's a rich man sitting, a poor man sick, sitting outside of Trump's house, wanting a hamburger and a French fry, Trump wouldn't give it to him. He just is incapable of realizing anybody other than himself. We are in a world of trouble with this degenerate that they're referring to as President Trump.
Hey,
thank you,
Pastor Manny. Here's the video. Someone wants you to comment on this right here. So I'm going to play the video in front of you. Some lady,
okay,
is a young lady. She actually lives in Brooklyn.
Okay.
She's calling in, and she wants you to comment on this. This is in Chicago.
You want me to play it, John?
You just pull up on the screen so people will know what he's looking at there.
Yeah, you want me to play it?
So what's happening here? This woman is being attacked?
Yeah, she's has some mental issues.
Oh, okay.
And so the black girl attacking her.
Other bitch, Lauren. Both of them. Both of them. Damn! Damn! Crack! Damn! Damn! Hey, bro, let my homie go. Let my motherfucking homie go. Let my motherfucking Beat his ass, yo. They working the ass. They working the ass.
You never know when you've seen enough of it. This was all over the news. This video was all over the news, and so a young lady chimed in. That's why she wanted you to.
There are probably a couple of ways of explaining this if I'm looking at it correctly. The screen is small. My glasses aren't the best. But when I see a bunch of young people attacking a woman, it's been explained to me that she has a mental issue, and they are attacking her. But there are a couple of things that, and I don't want to get, if you will, trying to be intellectual about this, but there's an alter ego. There is pent up, if you will, frustrations in these young people, and it could be a result of their home life. It could be a result of the way their mother treats them, or the way their father fights their mother, or the way they've seen Black men fight women. And these alter egos, if you will, and not to try to sound terribly intellectual, but that's what happens. We see this play out in real life, and then these young people who have no ability to constrain themselves attack this helpless woman. But I think it speaks to the larger issue of what the problem is in the Black community. We attack one another. And the weaker we are as Black people, the more we are attacked. See, strong people, and I call myself necessarily strong, but if you have at least a sense of strength as a Black individual, you're less likely to be attacked. You're less likely to be ripped off. But if you're weak and you don't understand various things, Black people will attack you night and day. So I think what we see is that particular psychological drama playing out with these young people attacking this woman who's helpless.
Thank you, Pastor. The next question we have for you is: how do you feel about Epstein?
You ever meet him?
No. I think the best question would be, how would Iceberg Slim feel about Epstein and his unique pimping ability to be able to do that? But I think the question is, Epstein psychologically tapped into the degeneracy of white men who, in many ways, have probably not always felt themselves sexually, if you will, strong. And as a result of that, they've looked at, and Black men always, they're just the opposite with Black men. Black men think they're sex gods. They think they own they think they control every vagina on the planet. They think every vagina on the planet is calling out, come get me. But white men are not like that. And I think the reason why Epstein succeeded is he tapped into the fact that these men felt more virile by having sex with these younger girls who were defenseless and didn't know all the moves of the bed, and didn't know that these men were not making the right moves because they had no experience. And I think that's what Epstein tapped into. Now, if you're asking me about Epstein as an individual, it's just another degenerate, if that's what you want to know. I don't know if I explained to myself correctly, but he was just a degenerate who had no cares whatsoever for how he was injuring people, and also saw it as any pimp would do. This is a great money maker. He made more money after he filmed these people having sex with these young girls. Then he sent them a blackmail letter, send me some money. Otherwise, I will put it on the New York Times.
You know, he had the house right there in here in Manhattan. down
on 61st Street.
It was given to him by who? But the Victoria's Secrets person.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a very ritzy neighborhood. I mean,
Yeah.
they're upscale.
Yeah.
It's upscale as upscale can get in New York. It
Yeah.
don't get more upscale. As a landlord, you should know that.
Yeah, I know it's very exclusive.
John, I'm gonna bring BD up real quick. He got a quick question he wanted to add, and he's been patient. Go for it, BD.
Mr. Manning, I appreciate you coming on this panel and sharing a little bit of your time with us. I really do appreciate that. My question to you is this: what are your feelings about the whole FBA movement and Tariq Nasheed?
I think that was brought up to me just a few moments earlier by John. I have to tell you that I'm not as well versed on that to give a full, if you will, explanation of what my feelings would be. Can you let me pass on that till I can educate myself about that?
Absolutely. And thank you for your time.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks, BD. The next question we have for you is: what are your president feelings on Obama now? It's Obama. Is Obama still the long-legged Mac Daddy?
Obama's a Mac Daddy. Obama's a long-legged Mac. Obama pimp black women and white women.
I'm convinced that Obama himself is feeling less than a man, less than an individual. It is clear that the so-called black community has found him out to be less than a leader. He couldn't get 5 men to come together and stand beside him. His wife don't want him. And the Democrat parties are running back to him because they don't know who to look for as a leader. But I was right about him. There was nothing I saw when he was running for the office of president that indicated that he cared anything about the well-beings of black people, that he had never done anything. I mean, come on now. He's a surfer from out in Honolulu, raised in Pakistan, by a tranny in Thailand, by a tranny. And for the first 5 years of his life, from the year 5 to the year 9 years old, he was in the house with a tranny all day long. And then went out to Honolulu, where he surfboarded and did drugs and gave fellatio and did a whole lot of other stuff that has been documented, that he had oral sex with a whole lot of those white men out there to make money. But there was nothing he ever did. And then, I don't know, the question I think people ought to be raising is, why is it that Jeremiah Wright, who was his pastor in Chicago, got thrown under the bus? Jeremiah Wright was speaking at every black church in America. And he's a good preacher, Jeremiah Wright. That boy could preach. I mean, as far as preaching goes. But in order for Obama to take the throne, Jeremiah Wright had to leave his church that he built to 8,000 members. He had to leave Chicago. We don't even know where the hell he's at anymore.
Is that right? He has kind of disappeared, huh?
Yeah. Why would you have to leave the scene? What was it going on between Jeremiah Wright that if he remained a constant in Chicago, that Obama's presidency could not take place?
Do you think it had something to do with those homosexual?
I'm sure it has something to do with it. I'm just wondering why nobody's ever raised the question.
The homosexual. You think there was some homosexuality there in that church?
Oh, absolutely. You had Oprah Winfrey there. There was a young
the boy that killed himself. Is that what you're talking about?
He didn't kill himself. He was killed.
Right, yeah.
The fourth grade teacher.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Who was in charge of the music ministry at the Trinity United Church of Christ there in Chicago, who was found dead, who were very tight with Obama.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
But let me say this also, that except for our church, every church you go into has a slew of homosexuals. They go to, especially black churches. And I think that's good. I think they ought to come to church. I don't think they ought to practice homosexuality. Trinity Church in Chicago was full of them. And that's why Oprah was there. That's why Obama was drawn there. But
the man named Donald Sinclair, I think that was his name.
Yeah.
Remember him? Yeah.
Right. Sinclair was a Japheth, a white person that Obama met at a bar.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Sinclair was, and they had sex in the back of a limo and then the holiday inn. But no, Donald something was the name of the person that with the fourth grade teacher that died, was found dead. Who was that?
It was Sinclair, right? Donald Sinclair. Is that it? Is that his name? I think it was.
No. Sinclair was the white guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's been a few years now. Those names escape me. I knew them as well as my own name years ago.
Yeah, I see him right here. Go ahead. We got another question. Universal.
Yes, sir. Black people today often say black people have no honor. Do you feel black people are in a worse spot before Obama, during Obama, or now after Obama has left?
I think they're in a worse spot since Obama, but not necessarily because of him. I think the grading of black people has progressed. It happened before Obama, and it just didn't slow down. It continued. But I think I was the first one, not that I'm trying to claim any coining of any phrase. I think I was one of the first that said black people have no honor. We have the superintendent of our school system and named his oldest son, who's now 17 years old, honor, because I said black men have no honor. But I think I don't think that Obama necessarily, he may have caused, if you will, some black people to lose faith in blackness, but I think we just hit it to it's going to get a whole lot worse unless somebody stops it.
Donald Sinclair, Larry Sinclair, and Donald Young. Someone said
there
those
you
people.
go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I remember those.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Our next question, it says, the breakfast program and the school. How do you feel, Pastor Manning, about the current literacy rates amongst Americans as a whole? The literacy rates are low and very concerning, according to many recent articles.
I'm concerned, and I am not only that, but I'm appalled at the fact that the literacy rates, and the problem is with such statistics, is that no matter what the statistics are, black people always end up at the bottom, even though the literacy rates for white folk is low compared to some, if you will, Asian or European, and even some African nations, the literacy rate is lower. But the real scream is that the literacy rates gets lower as you move from white down brown through Hispanics. By the time you get to black people, it's at the bottom of the barrel. The public school system is overloaded. The people that go into the education process don't necessarily go into it because they want to help children or help people learn. Many of them themselves have been abused, and they're not very educated themselves. And so as a result of that, we're raising a group of people now who couldn't read their way out of a paper bag, and it's getting worse in our public school system, no matter what city or state you find yourself in. And it's appalling that that's happening. I think we need to have parents who are concerned about this and want to see their children fully developed. You know, I think Smokey Robinson said it best. Smokey Robinson of Motown said this. He said, you know, you can go into any town, any black ghetto where there's a sizable ghetto, and you can pull out a number of young people in that ghetto that can sing, dance, and can do the same thing as the Motown Revolution. He said Motown wasn't special. You can do it in Philadelphia. You can do it in Washington, D.C. You can do it in New York. I'm using that as an example to say that if you go into any ghetto where you've got young black people, if you are devoted and you have the right principles, first of all, they have to be disciplined. And you can raise geniuses up out of the ghetto. I don't care how poor they are. If they don't have a bed to sleep on, if they sleep on the floor, because they have the same mental capacity as those white folk, you can raise geniuses out of any ghetto, anywhere, at any time. We have a principle here at our school called the MAD curriculum. And the MAD stands an acronym for memory, articulation, and discipline. That is to say, the first thing that you have to train children is to learn how to memorize, that they have the capacity to remember the smell of smoke 5 years ago. It's still in their brain. They still remember that. If they were riding on the bus and they saw a sign that said Abadago or whatever it is on a store, they saw that. It's still in their brain. So what we teach here is how to develop that memory. You have to realize you got that memory. It's still there. You got to figure out how to get it. And the next part of that acronym of MAD is then articulation. Once you realize, I remember this, I read this, I remember it, And now I need to have the ability to articulate it. I need to be able to speak it. I need to be able to write it. I need to be able to express exactly, not just the fact that I saw words on the sign, but I need to explain why the neighborhood was as it is. I can give the spiritual aspect of it. It's called articulation. And the other thing of MAD, which we teach here at our school, is called discipline. Not only do you have to have memory, articulation, but you got to be disciplined. You have to bring yourself to the point where you are focused on what you're focused on. You play basketball after the school is over with. While you're in the classroom, you're absolutely focused on learning what you're learning. You're giving your whole life to that process. You're disciplined. We have to teach our young children there's a time and place for everything. You don't play in the classroom. You don't make fun of this or that or the other. You discipline yourself to educate. Then when you want to go out to school is over, you go out and do what the hell you want to do. We've done that, and we've been extraordinarily successful. That way we could change the literacy rate of America's ghettos in 7 years. We'd have the brightest, most powerful students on the planet were I able to have that kind of authority.
Absolutely. No, I'm still here. I was just getting to the next question. The next question is, are you still in court over the church and foreclosure, or what was the outcome?
Well, at present, we are in negotiation with an attorney to bring a civil rights violation against the city of New York, against the Mellon Bank, for the tax lien law that they use to foreclose our building. Now, we had an auction, or they had an auction, I wouldn't say we did, back in June, and no one came to buy the property. But there is a lot.
Why wouldn't someone come buy it?
I don't know. It wasn't, normally it would have been in the press, the newspaper. I'm not sure exactly what. You
think they did you a favor?
I think so. Someone said it was a genius the way I handled it. A lawyer told me.
What did you do?
The fact that I fought them for as many years as I did, I think most people are afraid of. They actually filed a motion in court calling me a vexatious litigant. By that, what they were saying is that I filed so many motions in court that I'm just, I just file motion after motion after motion. I think that they have come to the conclusion that maybe it isn't worth it. But more specifically, over the course of the legal fightings, they did a lot of things that were wrong. And I'm looking for $500 million in the process when I do take them back to court.
So in the course of all that filing, they messed up on something.
Right.
Basically,
they always do that.
Right,
Anybody in court, especially if you have to go to court, landlord, tenant court, they always make mistakes.
Somebody gonna make a mistake, yeah.
There's always a mistake.
Yeah.
There's always a loophole somewhere. And never forget that if you're in court. I don't care if you're on trial for murder. Not that I'm trying to get you off.
No, you're definitely right about that. That's for sure. And next question, guys.
This is referring to your very famous statement of what's wrong with the blacks, right? Something's wrong with their mind. They want to know, how do you feel right now about the current conditions of black people in America?
I'm mournful. I feel the way I felt back in whatever it was, when I got out of my car and threw my keys at R.O. Dodge up in Scarsdale. To some degree, I don't feel like a failure. I would never say that about myself. I'm a winner all the time. But I have to tell you, I don't feel good that I haven't made the kind of progress. I mean, it's been 40 years that I gave up a life of where I could have been the vice president of Procter & Gamble, probably head of the European segment with houses in 3 different countries, with a pension plan worth millions of dollars if I'd stayed 40 years with Procter & Gamble.
Oh, you worked at Procter & Gamble?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
So you think you sacrificed for the blacks, but they didn't, you kind of, was it not worth it?
I wouldn't call it sacrifice. I just think I called it justice. I said, well, listen, if I can do something to help you, brother, let me do it. It's not a burden to me. If I can do it, let me do it. But I don't think I've made a lot of progress.
Does that sadden you because you're probably not blaming yourself? You think
No, I'm not blaming myself, but you know,
does that sadden you that the
damn.
blacks didn't make a lot of progress?
Well, you can put it that way if it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
But
out of all you gave, like this is what I got in return. You know, I put
after
out so
all
much
of what
of
I've
myself.
done, all I get now is cussed out by black people. All the children I've educated, all the meals I've fed, nearly 3 million meals I've served out of this kitchen. You walk by this kitchen over here, and all I get is a bunch of black folk telling me I'm a hater, that I don't like black. I ain't for the black man. What the hell's wrong?
You know that's very interesting. I don't know if anyone's talking on panel, but it's interesting because I asked you earlier, where are the Puffies and the Jim Jones? You said you ain't seen them.
I haven't seen them.
You said they don't own anything around here.
No, they don't.
But the blacks love Puffy and Jim Jones.
I know they do.
And they haven't fed the blacks one meal.
I know that.
Haven't not educated the children
I know that.
one day in school.
That's right.
But in this neighborhood, the blacks love Puffy and Jim Jones.
When you walked in the building, you saw students. They all looked like they were well dressed. Is that right?
Yeah.
You saw them studying and sitting at the desk.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very organized. You see the
No, they were
going.
nice and orderly, quiet. Yeah.
A beautiful place.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen Puff Daddy do anything like that or any of these other.
He's never been by here to help you. Offer you assistance.
I don't know if I'd accept it if he did come. But no, he hasn't. No, and none of the other. None of them.
Cameron. You know who? Do you know any of these rappers? Have you ever met any of them?
I tell you, the only rapper. What's that guy? That rapper that came by?
Lord Jamal.
Lord Jamal.
Yeah, I saw your interview with him.
He didn't come to help. He just came to, I guess he came to give me moral support. I think he said,
You think that's what it was?
Yeah, I think he saw how people were treating me. And he said, man, I agree with you. And so he put me on his channel and, got a few views. But
why don't these blacks get they could come and say, hey, what you need? You need 10,000 probably would help you.
A whole lot to help.
Which ain't a lot of money for a rapper who spends $10,000 on clothes and stuff like that.
It would be very helpful. And to feed the children, I've taken children all around the world. I've taken children to China on tours, to South Korea, to Europe, to Rome, all around the world. And I did it for years. I just put them on a plane, pay the ticket, and we'd all go and spend a couple of weeks learning other cultures, other language, they could sponsor that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of children who need uniforms. It could be good shoes, and they could sponsor. Well, I'll just make sure
it'd be nothing to them. Yeah.
Nothing at all to buy the sweaters and to pay for the meals. Listen, we serve breakfast here every morning. Eggs cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we serve you. You come and you eat till you're full, but they've never stopped by to
Not
offer.
one rapper.
Not one dime. Not one rapper. Not one time.
No singles, rappers, nothing.
No, they just don't.
Jeez Louise, that is amazing. As much as they talk about Harlem, if you're not from here, they talk about Harlem like they just.
And they know I'm here. They know what I'm doing. But it isn't in their heart to do it.
Yeah, that is interesting. Go ahead, Universe. You got other questions?
Yep, this will be my last question. We're gonna switch the person who will be reading the questions off. The next question is, what do you think about the crazy recreational violence of blacks with no logical gain?
Again, we're looking at a people who have nothing to look up to, and I would not say that having a black God would help them in any regard. But they have nothing to do. They have nothing to look up to as far as their energy is concerned. This might seem a bit far afield, but it could be a response to the fact that they're not given an opportunity to be as creative as they could, that perhaps their creative spirits have been stilted, so therefore they do all these wild things that are harmful and disruptive to their well-being. Let's say, for instance, they were given a project of what would it cost and what would be the process of walking to the moon? What would be the astrophysics of that? How would you deal with that? Let's say they were given a project to do that, and they were saying anybody who could come up with just any close idea of what quantum physics would be about how to walk to the moon would get $1 million. How many students you think would then say, damn, I'm gonna get that $1 million? And You know, we used to have a thing years ago. I don't know if y'all remember the number runners. They used to run numbers in the hood. The number runner could take your number. He didn't have to write it down. He knew what it was. He'd take 100 numbers a day, and he didn't write down nothing on a sheet of paper because mathematically he had the mind to be able to do that, yet he didn't have a college degree. I would think, let's say, for instance, these rappers said, well, we're going to offer $1 million to the student who finds a way to reach homeless people or finds a way to create a program within the prisons that would shun becoming a prison, if you will, criminal and better criminal once you get out, but getting a PhD in prison. Let's say, for instance, you had a program like that, and the person that wrote the program would get $1 million. I would shoot for that million, and a lot of others would shoot for that. That would take them off the streets, maybe off the basketball courts, take them out of the beds with young girls, take them away from some of the drugs, take them away from the idolization, because you could be a millionaire next year if you can figure out how to get this done. I think that so all this crazy wild ideas or wilding that they're doing, is, you would say, is just a burning up energy because their creativity juices aren't allowed to run free.
We got a provocative person coming up here now. Let me show you who's coming up. His name is B Brave. He's an older white man. How old are you, Pastor Man?
78.
Oh, you're a little bit older than him. A little bit older than him, and he's got some thoughts about black women. I don't know where he's gonna go with this, but I'm gonna bring him up here and unleash him here, Pastor Manning. And
Hello there. Hey, Pastor Manning, a pleasure, an honor. Right quick, since you talked about black, Pastor Manning, right quick, let's make it quick.
Me too.
I would say the number one thing, if there was one thing you could wave a wand and do to repair black community, it would be to soften black women's attitudes and to tell them to keep their body in shape so the man has something to strive for. Because I say this, I don't care of all the drive that I've ever had in my life, it was my pretty girl that set me out that door to get things done. And I'm saying black women in too large in numbers have become way too mean, rough around the edges, and they're destroying their beauty with all the obesity problems they're having. I would say if you could do one thing, talk black women to softness and to keep the weight within reason. What do you think?
Well, I did a teaching several years ago, going back as many as 30, 40 years ago. I think that most nations that were built architecturally in terms of its government and the economic systems were built because men wanted to impress their women. And so they built large houses. They went out and tried to make more money. They built castles in Europe. They built Taj Mahals in India. And they built churches and institutions in Russia because they wanted to impress that woman. I've also said that most men would remain cavemen if there were no women to impress. I think most men work very hard because they want to impress women. So I think you're right. These women who have become rough around the edges, they have themselves become very masculine in their approach.
Their figures
deters men from aspiring to do great things to take care of a woman who's carrying a hammer in her pocket.
That's right. So that's why I say it's the beauty of a woman is what drives the world. We both agree on that, correct, Pastor Manning? The beautiful woman.
I just said that, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Right quick, I found it interesting on your. I did not, of all your opinions I've heard over the years, I did not hear your stance on gentrification like it is. Okay, you're saying when you keep whites from gentrifying, you're saying do it in just buying up the properties, in other words, beating them to the properties. You're not talking about legally keeping them from buying the properties, correct?
No, I think it has to be economically based. It has to be something that's done in terms of what is fair, in terms of housing, banking, etc. But also there should be at least some favorability towards people who are indigenous to the community, that they should be given first dibs, and they should be given an education on how to have that happen. There should not be the sellout of the community, of the poor people, allowing others to just come in and run roughshod like Columbia University. For these people need to go to jail. I don't know if you know what Columbia University has done here in Harlem. They need to be in jail.
They've taken quite a bit of Harlem, right?
They have.
Yeah.
And they were able to do so because there was no one defending them against the billions of dollars that Columbia University have. They built a germ wall center on 125th Street. They shut down 100 mom and pop stores, shut down apartment buildings, shut down McDonald's. And now they've got this, if you will, all these buildings, these high class buildings here on 125th Street that you can't even get into unless you got a fingerprint to get into. And
what kind of buildings are these? Housing?
I call them, no, they're educational facilities.
Oh, on 125th?
On 125th Street.
Where on 125th?
On Broadway, from Broadway.
So all the way over, okay.
Yeah, from Broadway, from 125th up to 132nd Street, and from Broadway all the way over to the West Side Highway, overlooking the Hudson River.
Okay, so it's a nice area then.
Yeah,
yeah.
But they wiped out all the mom and pop stores, all the tenement buildings, and people used to make a lot of money there.
So that area is north of Columbia. Columbia is about 116.
Right.
Right. So this is 9 blocks up.
Columbia is landlocked. That is to say, they had no space to grow.
Right.
There was all the buildings around them.
Right.
They couldn't move those people.
Right.
So they bamboozled and moved all the poor people out and have built this paradise for themselves where only they have entrance to. I think they ought to go to jail for that. One of the reasons I wanted to become mayor, somebody asked me, and I don't think I ever really asked the question. I wanted to become mayor, and I still am, by the way, because I think there needs to be investigations open up into what has happened as far as landlords are concerned, developers are concerned, and how the property has been ripped off and people have become multimillionaires as a result of the ignorance of people. I think all those laws, all those city councils, those community boards that allow this to take place need to be investigated.
These people are bought off, though. Let's be fair.
Of course, I know that. I've said that 1,000 times.
Right.
But I think there needs to be an investigation and they need to go to jail.
Yeah.
So then when you speak of, you said yourself, you think the people within the region, the area, should be given preferential treatment. So what I'm getting at, Pastor Manning, is, are you saying that you're not faulting whites for wanting to stay separate from blacks also?
No, I'm not faulting. I mean, if white people don't want to live around black people, that's their business. I can understand why, especially at the present social understanding and the way black people live as a mass community. They don't create desirable neighborhoods. And that's just how that is. Listen, black people don't want to live around black people. That's heard.
I know it.
So I mean, that's just the truth. That is a truth. And they don't maintain their neighborhoods. They throw their garbage out the front window onto the sidewalk. And if you say something about it, they'll actually shoot you and then go home and eat a bologna sandwich and drink a glass of lemonade and act like you didn't exist.
Well, I appreciate your consistency on that matter, because hand to God, Pastor Manning, if you could do something about the street crime in low-income black areas, because I'm kind of a minimalist and I've never set the world on fire economically. I've always had a house paid off and stuff like that. But hand to God, if you could take care of that street crime in black neighborhoods, I would rather live among black people due to the fact that they're not grumpy. White people are grumpy, Pastor Manning. I've lived around them all my life, all white people. Black people are not grumpy people. So that's why I'm saying that something. That's why I agree with what you said earlier, that it's nurture, it's not nature. Blacks, if somehow you could get some influence going within the black community that made sense, blacks could certainly pull themselves out of this position where they're at. But would you, and I'll make this my last question, unless John wants me to stay up here, I'd be glad to. But don't you think that blacks are being with the rap industry and the porn rap and the death rap? Don't you think that there's a certain attack being done on black culture as a whole?
You're breaking up in terms of your sound.
Dick, can you hear me now? Is that better?
And you know, your question is so long. I forgot when you first got started.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Back up a minute. I think your first question was, at least first segment of it was that you would live around black people because they are not grumpy. White people are grumpy, but the reason why you don't live around black people is because of their social standards, which is probably predicated on violence and inhumanity towards one another, which makes them, in some terms, not reach what we refer to as a civilized state. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Right on the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you say white people are grumpy. Okay, maybe they are.
Yes, trust me, I take good note.
You know, I can tell you this, that when I first came to this community of Harlem, I was in high school at the time, and it was in the summertime, and Harlem was blacker than 1,000 midnights down in the cypress swamp. Everywhere you looked, there were black people hanging out the windows. They owned the stores. They were on the streets, and they were playing their music. And there was a rhythm that I had not noticed in the town I grew up in. The people themselves brought a spiritual rhythm, and you could feel the emotion, you could feel the energy, you could feel black energy during those years. And during those years, the major problem was, of course, was drugs. But beyond that, there was a bit of self-reliance. There was independence. There were black banks. There were black homeowners. There were black churches and black Cadillacs. But the energy was enticing. You just felt good walking down the street because the people present. New York has an energy all of its own. If you go to Times Square, there's an energy there as well. So you can live around black people, and if you enjoy that energy, but all that's gone. All that has been wiped away, and now all you have now is fear. You clutch everything, you watch everything. You don't know who's coming out the woodwork. You don't know who's going to do what to who. I'm amazed that white folk live in this community. I'm amazed that, what all the hell that goes on, they still come up here and try to live in this community. I'm amazed at that.
Well, I guarantee you got liberals that want to live there so they can brag about living around poor black people, poor little.
That's probably true too. Yeah.
Or you got white people making money. Pastor Manning, I can assure you, white people that have no investment interest or are not liberal and looking to be saviors, they want no part of living around black people.
I believe that. Yeah.
And that's why I find it to be a horrible thing that white people are now being, okay, KKK aside, I understand their legacy and all that crap, vile creatures. But right now, I'm telling whites, they need to understand, stop being afraid to say that you do not want to live around black people.
I think they ought to just come out and scream it.
Just scream it. Yeah, I'm with you, and I think
further. I think white people on these television news programs and on these other programs ought to also come out and scream it. I don't really like to work with y'all's asses, but I gotta do it anyway. I gotta show I'm liberal. I gotta show I'm down. But the moment I get off this platform with you white folk, I'm going back to you black folk, I'm going back to my neighborhood. I don't want to have nothing to do with y'all. That's what they are. I think they ought to scream that.
That's what I tried to tell.
Bunch of damn phonies, if you ask me.
Why do you think they don't like working with them?
Because they don't like their ethics. They don't like the stuff the way they don't like the way they chime in or chime out. They know that they're phonies. They know also that what we know is that they don't contribute to the black community. They extract. They also know that the black man sitting there on the panel, with the white folk, wants to be white. He doesn't want to be black. He wants to be white. He wants to talk white, talk with a pinch nose. He got an education at Yale or someplace like that. So they're looking at you. You want to be white. You're black. You don't even respect your own self. So why the hell should I respect you?
So you think a lot of these blacks out here are being looked at by whites?
Absolutely.
Do you think the blacks really want to be white?
Yes. They know. That's why they move. That's why they move out the black neighborhood.
I have a clip I want to play you, and it really amazed me when I heard the clip. There was a guy that used to stream on my channel, and he was talking to the guy that you see here, I'm not gonna play the clip, but he said something that blew my mind. And the guy that you see on the panel describes himself as a poor white trash man. That's the guy you see right there.
Okay, that's what he want to do.
And so one of the black men that streams on my channel said to the poor white trash man, "I'm a better representation of white culture than you." It blew my mind that a black man who seemingly is more well educated, better situated than this white man, poor white man, as he described himself. Here's a black man saying, "I'm a better representation of whiteness than you." It just struck me so odd, like, and I tend to agree.
In
with
his
you.
mind, I don't know the depths of what predicated the conversation, but in his mind, whiteness is a utopian, if you will, identity, and it's what black people ascribe to be. So he looks at himself in terms of he could be white, even though you thought it was
It's really ridiculous.
yeah. Here's a black man thinking he can be white, that he can represent whiteness. What the hell's wrong with you?
And then he picked the poorest white man. It's not like he picked a rich white man and said, "I'm as good of a white man as a rich white man." He picked a self-described poor white man.
Yeah.
I'm not poor. I'm not poor because I say there's no poverty in America. I'm at
Well,
the
you know
bottom.
what I mean. He picks a white man on the lower rungs of society.
I'm a bottom feeder.
He called it bottom feeder.
Minimal. Yes.
Listen, I got news for you. We've talked about the so-called intelligentsia of blacks that you say in Washington, D.C. is loaded with people who are intellectually learned, but they don't have no damn sense.
Right, that's what it is. Yeah.
They don't know how to pull piss out of a boob.
Yeah.
But they're not the only ones. You have those who are talented as well, such as, I don't know if I call a rapper a talented person, but they also want to be white. They do. I understand that Walt Clyde Frazier still lives in the community. I'm not
in Harlem.
Yeah.
Really?
I understand that Earl Monroe. You know these people, right?
Earl Monroe. Who's Earl Monroe?
He played for the Knicks.
Oh, really? Okay, I don't follow basketball. So these people still live around here.
I understand that they do. And because they're from the 60s and the 70s. They were from that period of time when people thought that Harlem was a great place for blackness. But the rappers all move out because they really want to be white. They really want their children to go to white schools. They don't want their children intermingling with black students. So when you see these people sitting on television, these news anchors and everything, they got there because they did demonstrate a sense of subservientness to white people, and so that's why they've got this. They're on these programs that they are.
That's very interesting. Brave, you got anything else? We got anyone else want to ask any questions before we let Pastor Manny get back to his duties here? Go ahead, Brave.
One last thing on my way out, Pastor Manning, I really appreciate your approach to telling blacks whites are not your problem. Thank you very much on behalf of white people for the way that you say it and how clear you are about it. Whites are not the black man's problem. At this time, maybe 100 years ago, right now, we're the least of blacks' problems, and thank you for making that very clear.
Let me say this to you in all sincerity. As you very well know, I get a lot of people who criticize what I say and what I do. A lot of people with very low understanding. A lot of people would want to see me dead because of what I do. But for you to take the time at this hour to say you appreciate what I've said, and not only that, but it's the absolute truth. White people are not black people's problem. Black people got a God problem. That's what their problem is. I want to know that I receive that sincerely. Very seldom do I get those kinds of remarks coming from people, so I treasure that from you. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for making it known. White people are not your problem. That's probably one of the most valuable pieces of information a man like you can convey at this time. Thank you, Pastor Manning.
Thank you.
We got another guy up here, Pastor Manning. What's his name? Fighter Complex. You got a question?
Hey, John, if we may go ahead and just quickly ask the questions. If I may, thank you. Pastor Manning, I'm a great fan. I have been following you for years now, sir. Thank you for what you do with the breakfast program. Thank you for what you do for your school, educating these children. Thank you very much, sir. It's a great honor. Another question, Pastor Manning, what is your opinion on African Americans losing politically and economically to African and Caribbean immigrants coming to America?
Because in the Caribbean, Haiti, Jamaica, the Antilles, the work ethic is different. The survival ethics are much different. The appreciation of space and the value of a dollar in those regions is very, very much more appreciated, and also in Africa. So what's happening is that when there is a competitive race between an African, an American that is raised in the ghettos or the cities of America, or one raised in the, if you will, Caribbean countries, the spirit and the energy that flows from the Caribbean ones can be felt by the people, that this person has a sense that's more genuine. Their work ethics, they can be displayed simply in the conversations that they have. And quite frankly, Black people usually raised in America can't hold a candle to their own counterparts in the areas that you made mention of a few moments ago.
Great.
We have Fighter Complex. Do you have a question, Fighter?
Yeah, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, Pastor Manning?
I'm here.
I've been listening to you, and
Answer the question. We know that. Answer the question. Come on.
So I didn't know you were located in Harlem. Can I am I invited to go to your church?
Absolutely. Just bring an offering when you come.
I'll bring an offering. How much?
As much as you can bring, we'll take
as
it.
much as I can bring. All right, where's it located? Because I'm from Harlem. I was born in Harlem in St. Luke's. So,
well, how do you born in Harlem not know that this church is in Harlem? That's a question.
No, I didn't know about you. I heard about you. You were trending, and I know about you. I think you're funny, but I like some of your points that you make. So I would like to go to your church.
How can he not know you were in Harlem?
I didn't know.
How did he not know you were in Harlem?
I didn't know. I promise you, I didn't know.
What part of Harlem you live?
Now I don't live in Harlem, and I didn't even grow up in Harlem, but I'm from Manhattan. I'm from uptown. I'm from the northernest part of Manhattan.
All right.
Wait, so wait. That was part one of my question.
You got a question? We got another guy. What's your question?
I have another question. Well, he didn't tell me where the church is located.
That's 123rd Street, Lenox Avenue.
Okay, 123rd Lenox. I'll be seeing you soon.
All right. I'm going to look forward to come. Make sure you identify yourself. Come up and talk to me. Tell the elders at the back of there you want to talk to me after the worship.
You know what I'm saying? The young men could have looked that up. Right.
That's true. If I may ask one more question, and then we have a
Navy man here, former Navy man, white guy, Aaron C.
Who's this?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I just had a quick question. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm in the middle of the mountains. It's hit or miss. Okay, I want to ask you, sir, Mr. Manning, honored to have you, of course, and to talk with you. I just want to know, in your personal opinion, since you are a man of the Lord, etc., how would you suggest or advise white folks? What should their posture be at this point towards American blacks? You noticed lately a lot of people talking about black fatigue, stuff like that. At this point, should we view these people as long-term? We can eventually work things out with these people for the betterment of the country, or do you think it's to a point where it's to the country's detriment? Let's say if you're addressing the standard,
get it out. Come on, get it out.
Yeah, if you're just addressing the standard issue white guy, how should he view blacks in 2025?
Boycott black people, and the other thing is stop feeling sorry for black people, or thinking that somehow or another that you're the cause or you can solve their problems. You ought to boycott them and let root little pig or die. Let black people survive or die. Listen. When white folk came to America to deal with the Native Americans, they survived. While I'm not in agreement with everything they did, but they survived. And I think that this whole business of selling a whole bunch of sympathy cards that white people ought to feel sympathetic for black people. I think that weakens the black man. I think that weakens his ability to recognize his own strength. I think you ought to be, listen, I ain't taking care of you. Buy your own damn food. Pay your own rent. And if you can't sleep on the street till you can get one, I gave what? If you sleep in a hut, sleep in one room until you can get yourself 2 rooms, and then you get yourself a room for your children. But I ain't paying your rent. The hell with you. That's how they ought to feel, how white folk ought to feel about black folk. That's what I think. You think?
I meant more along the lines of like racial hostility. You know, if you look on like a lot of social media, there's a lot of hostility between the races. It's almost like we're in a race war, kind of a cold war, right? So I meant as far as like viewing them as, you know, as hostile people.
What do you mean, viewing black people as being hostile?
Well, no, I'm talking about a lot of white. If you look at black fatigue, a lot of white folks nowadays just have an utter dislike or disdain or hatred of black folks. You know, would you advise?
Yeah. Well,
So your personal opinion, should we have more patience towards them, or what?
No. I think that I'm sure. I mean, hatred can be used spiritually. It can find some verses in the Bible that allow for hatred to exist. So I'm not going to rule that out completely. But I've discovered this, that people who realize that they have to make it on their own are the ones that make it. The people that realize that they can run con games and ask other people to sympathize with their problems will probably never get up. Listen, you can tell these women stop having babies for every man that gets an erection and then walks off, and then they go and ask somebody to take care of that child. Listen, that can be stopped. That doesn't have to happen. And what's worse is that the woman who brings a child into the world without a father. That child's going to suffer for the rest of their days, end up in jail by the time they're 16, and be dead by the time they're 30, because she decided that she wanted to be able to be taken. Listen, and there are people who are out there advocating, take care of her, make sure that she has a place to stay. And I think that kind of a spirit ought to be loathed. There ought to be people who disdain that with every ounce of strength that's within them, because it's anti-humanity. And so in many ways, white folk have a right being mad with black folk. I'm mad with them too. Listen, black folk are mad with black folk. You ain't said nothing. Black folk don't even want to live around other black folk. They're mad with them too. They hate them too. That's why they kill each other all the time. And then rappers get up and rap about how to kill black folk. I mean, they get their juices and make the most money on how violent they can rap about black people doing to one another, calling their women all kinds of names. So white folk ain't done nothing by hating black folk. Get in line.
Pastor Manny, thank you, sir. Thank you for your response. We wanted to ask just a few questions in regards to your incredible mission, your church. So, Pastor Manning, respectfully, where does he see your church, of course, after you pass? Serious question. Many of us, care deeply for what you do. If we may ask, do you happen to have an understudy, so to speak?
I do. However, I don't mean to be flippant about this, but I want to live as long as I possibly can.
Yes, sir.
And passing is not one of my favorite discussions about my future. I try to live as cautiously as I can in terms of what my health is like. But I've given myself and my energy over to an understudy, if you will, to call it that. And I've made it clear what it is I would like to see accomplished. As I expressed to John earlier, I'm not disappointed that I haven't done more in 40 years, but it can be somewhat disappointing that I haven't made. And I look at all these hustlers out here who make all the progress it's not progress really. But to answer your question, the ministry will go on. It will not stop. I got young boys in this church, 5 years old, who could preach their way out of a paper bag at any time of the day. So they know what the deal is. And if you've been listening to me for any length of time, I don't relent. I don't give up. I don't shut up. I don't quit. So everybody knows that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I've been listening to you actually since 2008 religiously. And I have quite a bit of a memory of you and your channel. So it's just great to see you this evening, sir. And our next question, sir, kind of touches on our previous question. Where does he see, so the next, in regards to alliances, do you happen to have any alliances now in Harlem, specifically when it comes to plans of succession? So you did answer that second part to the question, but if you may answer that first part, do you happen to have any alliances in Harlem?
I don't. I would if possible. However, our mission is of such, I could say, of such utopian, if you will, perspective that most people aren't willing to go there or even understand why they should. So it makes it very difficult to have alliances. However, I do want to say that I'm prayerful that there will be a breakthrough. I'm praying that there will be a spiritual revolution. There are people all over America that's been listening to me for, as you said, from 2008 or earlier. I'm praying that at some point in time there's going to be a revolution of the spirits of people, where they're going to say, "This is the direction, this is the man, this is the word." Even if I were not here to see it happen, I believe that it will. That's why I can get up every day with the same energy and never once doubt the possibility. And the other thing is I love God's people. I do. I don't think anybody loves God's people more than me. I think I love people to a fault, quite frankly. I've given my life, all my money, all my energy, everything that I have. I have nothing except my love for the people, and that suffices me. I mean, so I don't think that my love will die, and I believe at some point in time that people will recognize it, and the world will not be able to stop it. It will be so powerful when it does finally blossom and bear fruit.
Pastor Manning, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your response. Also, our next question, sir, you and John did touch on this subject a little bit earlier in the interview, but we were just wondering for the audience now, what are your thoughts on the sky-high rents in New York?
I think that is robbery. And more so than crooked politicians, I think the land gods ought to be brought to task. I think that the fact that they are making life miserable for people to live in the city, and they don't need the level of income that they are generating.
Speak for yourself.
So John is a landlord himself, so this is the first time in 2 hours we disagree. But I'm convinced that well, first of all, I think we need to understand New York is a very expensive town. We have to understand that. And so when you come here, you need to you come with the ability to deal with all the expenses of the issues. But I think, unlike what automobile you buy, a living space is a mandatory. You got to have one. You don't have to have a car. You can get on a train or a bus, but you got to have a roof over your head. And that's where the real, if you will, thievery can take place, because you just got to have it. It's worse than taxes. I think I'd rather pay taxes than rent. So
the landlord's coming.
I hate taxes. Oh, that won't pay taxes.
The landlord's always coming. That is for sure.
Pastor Madden, if I may ask, sir, please, why do you believe that Mamdani will not be sworn in as mayor of New York City, sir?
Well, because I'm going to do everything within my energy to stop it. I have called for a national boycott of all Muslims. And we will be running a television ad on all New York television stations starting as early as Monday, calling for this uniting. The Muslims need to feel it in their purses that this man is bad for business. And then, of course, I've asked tourists who flood New York with $137 billion annually, hotels, restaurants, movies, Broadway shows, airline tickets, prostitutes even, that they bring to New York on an annual basis. I'm going to start a movement to ask them to please support us. Please help us save New York by not visiting New York. Go to some other city until we can bring New York back under control. That's my approach. How effective it's going to be will be largely dependent upon how effective I am. But the other thing is that Staten Island, if you don't know New York, you wouldn't have an idea about the 5 boroughs, which represents in other people's language 5 counties that make up New York. But Staten Island is a county that's planning on, with 500,000 people, that's planning on succeeding from New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, have they talked about that? Is that true?
It's in the news. Yeah.
Really?
They're having a meeting in Staten Island with the Staten Island borough president and the borough to
Really?
succeed. They say they don't want to.
What would they be a part of Jersey?
Possibly, yeah. They're very close to Jersey.
Now, we covered this on the stream here, and there's a lot of white people live in Staten Island.
That's all white people live in
The
Staten
city
Island.
workers,
Right.
and then they're poor black Eric Garner likes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
The
full-
poor blacks and white people, by and large.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And they mostly voted for, I think, Cuomo, the
Well,
reject white man.
They probably voted for Sliwa too, as well.
Right. But they didn't vote for Montgomery.
no.
It was the one county that
They told Montgomery they would let him on the island when he tried to get onto the island.
Really?
They stopped him. Don't come over. We don't
Really?
want you here.
those are your blue collarish white men,
All
the
of
white people.
Yeah, but they're stable though. They got
right. the
got
firefighters and
the police officers,
right. Yeah.
the
Right.
teachers. I mean,
Right.
they are a stable group of income people
Right.
from the city of New York.
City government works. And so it's interesting that they chose Montgomery, but because I looked at the maps, a lot of the poor areas, because you can look at the map by housing district.
Staten Island.
You can look at the whole New York City voting map by NYCHA, how close they are to NYCHA.
Right.
NYCHA is going to be the housing project.
Right.
And that was the one borough county that went overwhelmingly for not Montgomery.
Yeah, they don't want him as mayor.
Mm.
Now, there are a lot of people talking about just leaving New York City, but they're talking about succeeding, that they'll only have 4 boroughs. There's no way. I mean, even with that brewing, Mondami is facing, even without my efforts, is facing an uphill inauguration, because when you got that many people say, if you're going to be our mayor, New York City's going to have to divide up. We don't want you. Wow. Other people, billionaires, are talking about leaving town as well. And I'm talking about hitting the Muslims in their pocketbook by boycotting them. Don't buy a hot dog on the street or anything else that they sell.
I ain't got to boycott them. I don't shop with them. Other than maybe the bodegas.
But they're the bodegas. They own the bodegas.
They do own the bodegas.
They're taking a lot of money.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You tell
Hell
them,
yeah.
Don't go to these bodegas.
It's so interesting that they run the bodegas, and a lot of times they don't sell alcohol.
No.
But they'll have one bodega that will sell it. That's what it seems to be to me.
Right.
They may own all of them, then they have one that sells it. And so right where I live in Brooklyn, they live close by and they work there, which means they got a hell of an advantage. They don't have to travel for work. They can walk right there.
Some of them here don't live in some of them that have the bodegas around here live in New Jersey. They actually come across the bridge.
That's a long way.
Now they come across the bridge.
Not the man that owns it though, surely.
No, the workers do.
The workers.
And
really?
They do. There's not a lot of Arab people that actually live in this community, but they run the businesses of the community, the bodegas in particular. But on that wise on Mondami, he's got a long way to go before inauguration. He's got a very long way to go in order to win the spirit of New York, and I don't think he'll ever do it.
That's interesting. If we don't have any, we
have 2 more questions. Master Kim,
we got an Asian businessman here.
If I may ask 2 more questions, and then of course Master Kim to go ahead and take over. May I?
And we probably have to get Pastor Manning back on the panel another day. Go ahead,
Pastor Manning, we greatly appreciate. I have 2 more questions for you, sir. And then, of course, we have a businessman, Master Kim, looking snazzy in his suit. Thank you so much, sir. One of our last questions is in regards to the Nation of Islam. Do you feel the Nation of Islam has been beneficial to the Black community? Farrakhan, thank you, sir.
Let's pre-Farrakhan. Let's go all the way back to Elijah Muhammad, and to some degree Malcolm I don't have the greatest words perhaps for Farrakhan, mainly because of the transition after the death of Elijah Muhammad. But the one thing that I almost became a Muslim when I was searching for a way to identify myself, rather than throwing my keys back at the Procter and Gamble Corporation. I considered becoming a Muslim. They were standing on the street corners, they had their bow ties, they had Muhammad Speaks, they had their fish market coming up out of Peru. They were clean shaven, shine shoes. They had their act together. Back in the late 60s and 70s, the Muslims were all over the ghettos, and they were very impressive young men. I almost became one. Problem is, my grandmother was Pentecostal, and if she had heard I joined the Muslims, she would have probably died of a heart attack. So I didn't do that. But I do think that the thing that also impressed me about Islam and Elijah Muhammad was that they looked inward. They said, brothers, we got to stop the drinking, stop the cussing, stop the killing, stop the shooting. We got to take care of our wives, got to run our own businesses. We got to take care of our families. We got to make sure that we're doing the right security, that we're doing the right. I was impressed with that. I'm still impressed with that. And the Muslims have moved away from that in the Farrakhan era. But I was very impressed with that. I thought, in fact, that's what we need. We need that. We need what Elijah Muhammad was talking about in terms of our communities. Our communities were going to hell in a handbasket. And he took these men off of drugs, off of streets, out of jails, and made them upstanding citizens and fathers to their children. I think that's commendable. And I still applaud them, while I don't applaud the idea of the Islamic God and Allah and whoever else it is but I thought their cultural, if you will, ideas were spot on. And I still admire them for that to this very day.
Pastor Manning, thank you for your response, sir. Well said. Thank you, sir. Our last question before Master Kim joins the conversation is, Pastor Manning, do you think the Black ancestors would be proud of where modern Blacks have done with their legacy?
Hell no, I'm inspired. No. I'm clear that my grandfather, Charlie Patterson, who was born in 1863, the year of the Emancipation Proclamation, he was born a slave. Now, he was only 2 years old when it finally ended in 1865. But he lived long enough for me to know him. He lived long enough for me to know him as his grandson, a man that was born a slave. So no, he would not be proud of where we have come. He would not be proud of the fact that we have destroyed ourselves. He would not be proud of the fact that we once used to educate ourselves. We had strong families, and now we are eviscerated by a culture that stinks to high heaven. We praise rappers for their vulgarity. We don't make anybody ashamed of having children without fathers. We allow that to fester. And we have now gone from that to being gay and funny and every damn thing else. And so, no, I think the ancestors, even those who lived in perhaps the poorest part of Africa, are turning over in their graves to see what we have become. We are an embarrassment to the world. We've allowed ourselves to become the lowest of the lowest on the totem pole. And you got people living in India and Calcutta and Bombay and other places where poverty, but there's a sense of decency. There's a sense of organization. There's a sense of family unity in those poor areas. We are the lowest of the low. Our African ancestors probably don't want to even own us. I think if we all died and went to heaven, they'd probably go to another part of it and say, I don't know anything about them American Negroes. They're all crazy as hell.
Pastor Manning, that's a great. Pastor Manning, sir, thank you. Thank you very much for your response. Thank you, sir. I now wanted to go and segue to the gentleman here on the panel, Master Kim, Michael Fujitsu. Michael, please go ahead. Come on.
Yep.
We'll
Hey,
stay
Pastor
here.
Manning, same here, been a fan of yours since the early days. This is extremely inspirational to at least talk to you via the internet. 2 questions I have. One, have you already subscribed to John Galt Urban Landlord channel yet?
No, but I will, and
God bless you.
I'm gonna run his videos on our channel when I get an opportunity.
There you go. And then a second question, and just to put a little meat on the bone, although John Galt does talk about a lot of the issues affecting neighborhoods and business and politics, but there's a backdrop of business for sure. And what people realize individually that you ran a business for just a long time. Most businesses fail in under 3 years. How are you able to be so successful at what you do, running obviously the gospel of the Lord, but aside from the gospel of the Lord, running a business and balancing into your financials and the balance sheets? That's very difficult to do in the most difficult city on the planet. You are highly, wildly successful. How have you managed this? And this has nothing to do with race. You know, as a businessman, how have you maintained your success for this long? Because people can't even crack the 36-month time span, Pastor.
The success and I agree that we have been able to overcome the pitfalls of poverty. We've not had to close down anything that we operated. We've been able to successfully pay our staff of employees who make comparable incomes to anybody working out in any other area. They're able to have decent lives, homeowners, etc. I owe the success of that to my believing of the teaching of the church. The principle of the tithing and the offering, I think, has been that which has blessed the members. But beyond that, I've not taken anything for myself. And not every business owner takes things for themselves, which will cause their business to fail. But we've gone through some very difficult financial times here. There have been times when we were not able to make payroll. That has happened a couple of times, but we prayed our way through it. And I was trained in the business school of Procter and Gamble. In fact, I went out to Cincinnati, and I was trained in their executive training area about running a business. But we just thank God that we have survived. Then beyond that, I think I think God has smiled on us when the people have frowned. God has smiled on us. He just won't let us go under. In spite of all the attacks, and by the way, we've been out there. We've been out on BET television, we've been on Word Network. We've been all over everywhere on some very expensive projects, and God has just protected us. I have to give the praise to Him.
Thank you very much. Very inspirational words, not only from the gospel, but just straight up business. You're right. Businesses do go through cycles, and you've not tapped out, and that is very inspiring. 9 out of 10 people would have tapped out and gone back to get one of these corporate jobs and buried it, but you kept on going forward, and that's a very good. I can't wait for you to do your Audible book. When's that going to come out? But very inspirational, Pastor. And I'm going to log off and just watch the show in the chat. But pleasure to meet you via the internet, Pastor.
God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, one more. And before we get out of here, Pastor Manny, I want you to tell people how can they donate, help your church in any way. If there's any way they can, contribute, financially, spiritually, whatever.
I can certainly use offerings. The fellow the other day, a half an hour ago, said he comes. I tell him, bring an offering when you come. I certainly can use that. But John, I think that, in fact, I know if everybody that's listening to me now, and everyone especially those who've had a question, would start campaigning for me. The Pastor Manning is not a hater. He's not a hate monger. You need to take the time to try to understand him. You need to try to understand his sacrifices. You need to try to understand where the man has come from. I mean, anybody who comes up out of the chain gang of Florida swinging a bush axe with a man standing over them with a horse and a shotgun, and then decides to become a pastor and run for the mayor of the city of New York, it takes a lot of overcoming self-doubt. And hatred doesn't get you there. You can't get from where I've come from to where I'm at now if I'm a hater. And anybody who would just take the time to think, the reason why I was able to survive the chain gang and then have this beautiful church building to sit in is one reason: the love of the Lord God Almighty. And I can't love God and hate my brother. And I think if people would start spreading it, where I need offerings, I need money right now. I'll take everything you got right now as dollar bills. But I think more important to me, if you just start telling people when you get a chance, you just ought to listen to Pastor Manning and try to understand what he's saying. I think that would be the best contribution that anybody can give to me right now, or give to the children that you saw.
Yeah. There's some very well mannered young men and women in there.
If people would do that, it would be quite a blessing.
So they tell me those young kids that were there, how old were they? They seem to be teenagers.
You got high schools. We got them from kindergarten through high school, so there would be teenagers and middle school and all that kind of thing.
So you mentioned something, and this is interesting. You said you missed payroll a couple times. Things were tough. How did you deal with that with your workers?
I would say to anybody who's going to start a business, and you're going to have some rough times.
Yeah.
I don't care how well financed you are.
Yeah.
Where your sources of income, what your revenues are, and what your assets are. You're going to run into some stumbling blocks. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going. You can't let the fact that happens. You run out of money, you run out of resources, you run out of time. But don't quit. Just keep going. Just get up the next day and the next day. But to answer your question, that's what we have been doing, and we have some tough times. We had some times we couldn't make payroll. There were times when the Con Ed, the people that run the electricity in this building, were standing outside with a bunch of things saying they're going to cut off the electricity. I wouldn't let them in the door. I mean, we couldn't pay the bill. The only thing I could do is just stop them at the door. I said, you just ain't coming in here. Now they can do it from the office.
Yeah, remotely. I know about that. Yeah, that's very true. They can't cut the water off like that yet, though.
No, those are some chilling time.
Yeah.
But we made it,
Yeah.
and anything in life that's worthwhile is going to be very difficult. I would say to people, just don't quit. It's too soon to quit.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Just don't ever give up. And I think that your success is always there if you don't run away from it.
Yeah. Well, we got a guy. I think he's been trying to ask a question.
I'm back. Yeah. I apologize what happened earlier. I
Don't
don't come here.
apologize. Just make it
I didn't come here to troll, sir. No,
Don't
because
apologize. Just make it concise.
I believe in divine intervention, sir. And I came into the live. I heard when you mentioned your past. You went to prison. I also went to prison. I'm a felon. So I'm inspired by your story, how you were able to change your life around, despite the hate, despite the obstacles and beating the odds. So what sparked in you to say, you know what, I want to change my life around and I want to impact the world and my community?
I realized that I had hurt a lot of people. I had disappointed a lot of people. First of all, my wife and my children, I abused greatly. I wasn't a father to my children. I was sleeping with every woman I could find. I wasn't coming home at night. I wasn't helping my wife take care of the children, taking them to the babysitter. She had to go to work in the middle of the winter. And I didn't help her. It was awful what I did to her and what I did to them. Nothing can restore or repay that. The other thing is that I grew up in rural North Carolina, a little small town of 3,000 people. And everybody thought when I graduated high school that I was going to make something out of my life. And when I got arrested for armed robbery in Brooklyn, it made the New York Times. And people who knew me sent the newspaper articles back to North Carolina. I was ashamed. My teachers saw, what you doing with armed robbery? I mean, come on. That's the lowest kind of criminal activity anybody, but that's what I was arrested for. And I mistreated a lot of people. I ran over and abused a lot of women. I mistreated a lot of people who trusted me. And I don't want to live like that anymore. I didn't want to I was in prison at the time when I realized all of this. I didn't want to get out of jail. That's not what I wanted as I stand before God. I just wanted that burden, that pain of how awful I felt about what I did. I was an awful individual. I never killed anybody. I never raped anybody. But the thing I did to my family, to my grandmother, to other people, I just wanted that burden off of my shoulders. And I asked Jesus to help me. That I heard my grandmama talk about him, and he helped me.
Let me ask you this question, Pastor Manny. Do you think that when that connection is broken, grandma to grandson, then you kind of feel beholden to do the right thing? Right. There's this tangential connection. Today, you guys so broken of a family that no one, the young man that might be a criminal and may be reined in because he's thinking about what his grandma or somebody might think. It's all broken.
I know that.
He doesn't care. There's
Not anymore.
Yeah.
That doesn't. All that's gone. We've lost that.
Yeah.
We've lost over the past 2 generations. We've lost that civility. We've lost that connection. We've lost just what you're expressing, and that's what needs to be restored. If we restored that, we'd be a powerful people. We'd be an invincible people. If we just got that back, forget about anything else. Just bringing back that structure again would make us a very powerful people in terms of the rest of the world.
Yeah. As we wrap it up here, Pastor Manny, it's one of those things that 25 years I've been trying to make heads or tails of it as a landlord. And I'm a software developer. That's what I did for many years here. That's what brought me to New York. I worked right there on Madison Avenue, VML, a lot of ad agencies. And I never saw any blacks. Never saw any black software developers. And it's a fairly heady position.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, as a landlord, I would see just the absolute chaos that blacks were living. And I show it on my stream. How filthy some of these people are. I mean, just absolute living filth. They can't, just any kind of little minor inconvenience can blow up into like a full-on killing or fight. And so I've just been looking at it and I think, man, it's just something that if they could just get the ability to cooperate with each other, right?
Yeah.
And things would be a whole lot better, but
it would be worth trillions if they understood that principle. But they don't, and there's no one teaching it. The things that they are hearing at the highest level is division, or you're not your problem. Someone else has created this problem for you, and that's why you're suffering. But you're right. When you looked at where you are, the field that you're in, why aren't there other people in it? And as I challenged your thinking earlier, we have the mental and intellectual capacity to do anything that we want to do. We really, really do. It just isn't being developed. What's being developed in us is hatred, blaming other people. We are experts at that. Where we're not experts at perhaps software development, or even understanding the concept of why software is needed, where it plays in the business aspect of it. Nobody's telling us how to do that. They're telling us we are learning from the television, from the movie stars, from the how to hate this person, how to do that, how to blame other folks.
Yeah, indeed. Pastor Manny, would you be willing to come back on the panel? Well, you don't have to do it in person, but you can always click the link anytime. I think, people have really enjoyed you. There probably is many more questions left, but we've been here 3 hours, so we definitely hold it for another time. What do you think?
I would be more than willing. I'd be honored to log in. I do have a very tight schedule myself. My life has become extraordinarily busy.
What keeps you busy these days?
Mainly the mayoral campaign and keeping this church out of the hands of the Mellon Bank.
Is that who it is?
Yeah, that has taken a lot of time, and I think that the more I understand the fight that I'm in, the more time it takes for me to be spiritual, to be prayerful, and to be aware of and my commitment. But I'd be honored to share your program anytime I can.
Some of the language is a little rough, but probably not too rough for you.
Listen, I've been around the barn. There ain't nothing anybody can say I ain't never heard before, and probably said myself.
Yeah, I mean, yes, what's crazy? I'm just talking now. My dad when I started this channel, and you know, he knows how I feel about blacks. He's somewhat of an apologist for him, although he sold drugs to him. You know what I mean? That shit crazy. And he's a college graduate too, you know, and I ain't putting down my dad because I had nothing bad to say. But when I started this channel, and you know, he went in the direction it's going. I'm a landlord. I see a lot of blacks and black dysfunction. I haven't talked to him since I started. Yeah,
Is he yet alive?
Yeah, still alive. I mean, you know, we used to talk all the time, but the content on my channel, and you know, I think he's very disappointed in how blacks have turned out. He's 70 years old. He went to a black college, Tennessee State. He's lived around, and he won't live around white people. See, that's the thing. Like, and I don't live around white people. I got it from him. He used to always tell me, son, my ears are tuned for the ghetto. And when I lived in Brooklyn, I kind of started understanding what he said, because the Caribbeans during the summer play the music loud. The boom, boom, boom.
Is he Caribbean? Is that where he's in the character from the?
No. But I'm black. I'm black American. Okay. But that bass, the boom of the Caribbeans doesn't bother me either. Now, if they were playing again, Leonard Skinner, probably bother me. But the bass doesn't bother me. And so I just started to see my ears are kind of tuned for the ghetto. I hear the blacks screaming and talking loud at the liquor store, or, you know, and it just, you know, it's just like background noise, where to a white person, it might really bother them.
You know, I don't know your father.
Yeah.
Drug dealer, college graduate, Tennessee State. He said, "Oh, okay, that's good." But you two may be in different worlds.
Yeah.
In terms of where you are. What I do know about you, I think, is precious, and I wouldn't want to see the world lose you. Whether people agree with you or disagree with you, landlords want to beat you for rent or whatever they want to do, or you want to kill them or whatever they plan on doing. I don't think the world. I wouldn't want to see the world lose you. So I wouldn't tell you necessarily to reunite with your father. I don't know if I could say that. If I thought perhaps we'd lose you from who you are. Right now, you're making a contribution. You got a whole lot of people that look up to you and listen to what you say. And I wouldn't want that to end. If you want to reunite with your father, that's your business. I'm not recommending it.
Nah, I don't have any problem with him. You know, I hope one day we do, you know, get back together. I mean, he's getting older, and I would love to be able to help him, to be quite honest with you. You know,
I understand that.
Yeah, but you know, just like what you do, it probably is, you see it as a calling. There's probably no one that can rein you in, and the people that probably love you don't even attempt to rein you in. And
no.
And I ain't even gonna say he tried to rein me in. He probably just doesn't watch and just let me do my thing.
Let's stay in touch with one another.
Yeah, indeed. I have to get your number when I leave here.
Yeah, I can give you my personal number,
Yeah.
My cell, and my contact information, and we'll continue doing what we're doing.
And maybe we do some fundraising on my channel every now and then. We come up, hopefully we can get something. All these people have been watching you for years.
They could give an offer, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we did. We definitely gonna get that done. We definitely get that, because we had some people that donated to the channel here, so we definitely send you a contribution. Hey, if people want to support your channel, you take PayPal, Cash App. People asking
we have Cash App.
Is it all on your website?
It's on our website.
It's all on the website.
Yeah.
Anyone want to support you?
Yeah, they go to the website.
I see
Cash App is on the website.
I see the website, online giving.
It's
PayPal, Cash App. All right, guys, this has been great. Pastor, I always keep about to call you Master Kim, but Pastor Manny, you've been up here for 3 hours. That's the other guy, Master Kim. You've been up here 3.5 hours. You've given the audience all they could take and more. We have to get him back again. He's nodding his head over there.
Listen, I preach for an hour and a half, so I'm long-winded.
But you know, I came here from DC. You know, I live in Brooklyn, but I was in DC, so I came up. It was my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. You know, I didn't care what it cost, man. I rode this cell up here too. It's the first time I rode this cell up.
That's a nice train if you got the, place. You got the money to have a nice sleeping car.
Well, they weren't sleeping because I just came from DC.
Right, of course.
Yeah, I used to work for Amtrak. So before Acela became, Acela, before they rolled it out, we had to do a test run. So I've ridden on it before. But it's kind of aged a little bit, but yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, very nice. But anyway, guys, hit the like button. We put the link in the chat how you can support Pastor Manning, what he's doing here. Cash App, PayPal. He take it all. Right?
Give it to her, I'll take it. I prefer Cash App though. I do.
Is that right? Why is it? The fees and stuff?
The fees.
Yeah, yeah.
And the money flows a lot more fluidly than on Cash App. It's much easier for our banking system as well.
Really?
So just focus on Cash App.
There you go.
All right.
Sounds good. There you go. Hey, tell us next time we're gonna talk more about your school.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about, and I'd like to tell, people live in the New York area.
Yeah.
They might want to bring their children to our school. Really, it's an excellent school.
Yeah.
Listen, we have a slogan here. You bring me your child, I'll give you a world leader. When that child graduates in this house, I will give you a world leader. I'll give you a person who's first has traveled the world, that understands the world, understands every aspect of education, ready to go to college, and ready to do great things. So if parents have children, come talk to me.
How did COVID affect your school?
It didn't. We did online. Again, that's the superintendent over there.
Okay.
We did online, and our students are disciplined. They understand that you can't, because you're online, I mean, you can be running around and not paying attention. And there's a sense that I think the students that come here get a sense that they must do well. John, a lot of the students believe, especially the teenagers, that they need to do well to help me.
Really? That's good. That's good. That's
they
good.
think they can defend me. That they
Really?
see what people do. They see people throw rocks through
Really?
the window. They've seen all the
People
other
throw rocks through the windows and stuff?
Yeah, they've broken the windows. They made death threats. And the students.
Who is doing this? Who you think is doing it? The death threats and stuff.
General, in fact, the window was mainly young white boys that jumped on the sign outside and jumped on, and many of the people from the LGBT community as well.
That's right, because you had a big problem with the LGBTs.
Right, there are a lot of them, but generally just black folk have done ugly things as well. And I really think the students, don't tell them I said this though, I think the students say, we want to help Pastor Manny. We want to do well. We want to show them that the world is not as bad as people. And they do well. They come in, the breakfast program, they come in the morning, and they take off their sweaters and they start washing dishes, sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, and serving the table. Yeah.
It's better than my tenants. My tenants are filthy. The black ones are filthy.
No.
Where do these kids live? Around here?
They live around in the community.
What's the background, parents' financial situation?
Usually low income. Many of them live in NYCHA housing.
Oh, really?
The others have some of them.
Yeah, that's a tough environment.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
And they come out of NYCHA. They come by themselves to the school.
How about parental involvement?
Parental involvement is pretty strong.
Is it?
Yeah, it's we call our parental meeting. Every parent shows up. They just come.
Really?
No, they don't mess around with that.
Even the NYCHA children.
Yeah, they come. They come out of night. The parents come out of NYCHA. They come.
Really?
Yeah, they do. I think they realize that their children are articulate. Their children can talk. Their children can read the Bible, and they appreciate that. They realize that, hey, if their children were in the public school, they wouldn't have a chance at life that they're having now.
Yeah, because when I walked up, it didn't look like a public school. The public schools just have such a terrible reputation.
You could just feel the spirit in it.
Right? Yeah. Because the little kids say, "Hey, go around to the other door."
Right.
That was very interesting.
It's a great school. It really is. I would commend any parent to bring their children to this school.
Pastor Manny, it has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure. Guys, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you go out and support Pastor Manny's church and all that he does, his YouTube channel and everything like that. And you'll be back. We'll get you come back.
I will. I will send you, I'll give you my personal number, and you give me your personal number.
Yeah.
And give it to him as well. And he will communicate between the two of us.
Yeah.
He does a lot of technology type stuff. I'm 78 years old, so I'm not all that good at technology.
Yeah.
But he's very good at that kind of stuff. So what you just did here, he understands that. And connecting us and getting us the various channels and all that, he can do that for us. Right?
Yeah. I don't know any people in DC. I wish I did. I could connect you to somebody, but you probably know more people in Washington, DC than I do.
Listen, Washington, let me not start talking about DC.
You ever come down there?
I've been down there on a couple occasions. I've been down there for some events. Last time I was down there, I forget the name of the person who has a committee down who runs. Actually, she's Republican, and she was raising money for the Republican cause. And I spoke in the event that she had. She put me up in that. What's that hotel down there that they number that all the politicians stay in? I forget the name of it now.
On the Mandarin Hotel or something?
No. It's God, what's the name of that?
So many of them down there.
At any rate, no, I know Washington. So at any rate, listen, it's been a
pleasure. It's been a pleasure, guys. Make sure you hit the like button and support Pastor Manny. He's doing the Lord's.
This nigga has the motherfucker, by the way. Let me go fast. I am the nigga, Young Galt. This high ass nigga.
They don't dance no more. It's all about the lean. Back in the day, crack was jumping on the scene. Now they slumped on the sidewalk.
Can't talk.
Golden era faded,
but we still feel the rock. They used to be kings, now they lost in the scheme.
Popping them bottles, throwing money, and living dreams. Now they zoned out and mumbling, fumbling. No rhythm in the city, the whole shit crumbling. They used to rock the house, they was riding through the streets. Remember there was dancing, sliding to the beat. Now it's poison in their veins, ain't no pulse on the street. Guess it's over now, they accepted defeat.
Back in the day, the rock had a violent freak. Different story now, they got no energy. The new drums got them slow with the hit unload. Eyes closed and they don't dance no more. Block used to be jumping, top shit they was on. Now it's lights out, guess the thrill is gone.
I am the nigga, Young Galt. I bring it to you rough, rugged, and raw, nigga.
They don't dance no more, it's all about the codeine.
Back in the day, they was rocking on the scene. Even dancing in the rain.
Now they nodding off.
Shit just don't hit the same.
I am that nigga, Young Galt.